Chapter 1282. Sir, there's a communication being sent from within the game. It's trying to communicate with us. The staff in charge of monitoring the game core immediately reported nervously when Xian's last sentence ended. Look, am I right? The person who wants the ransom is here. Xian smiled bitterly. Connect the communication. Yes. The researcher fiddled with the equipment for a while, and the projector projected the image of a person. It was 8 feet tall, with a jade-like face, strong and handsome, dressed in cloth clothes, and floating in the air like an immortal. It was hard to imagine that such an elegant person was actually the mastermind behind the entire incident. You've finally shown yourself? I thought you weren't planning on meeting us. Xian heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the mastermind finally show himself. He wasn't afraid of the sky-high price. He was only afraid that the mastermind wouldn't talk. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be able to find a breakthrough. I am Jiangdong's Zhou Gongjin. Greetings, heroes. The first thing the mastermind did after showing himself was to bow to Xian and the others. What an elegant young master. Ah, so it's Zhou Yu from the 300 miles of burning red cliff. I didn't expect the mastermind to be you. Xian revealed an extremely shocked expression after listening to his self-introduction. In the end, it all turned into a sigh. That's all in the past. A real man doesn't mention his past achievements. You don't have to mock me anymore. Zhou Yu smiled faintly. Alright. Since you've shown yourself, why don't you tell us the truth? What do you want, Governor Zhou? Why are you willing to release so many souls from the game? Xian asked helplessly. Why don't you listen to a story before Zhou Yu states his conditions? Zhou Yu changed the topic and started telling a story. However, with so many souls in his hands, Gohan and the others didn't even have the right to refuse. They could only listen to Zhou Yu patiently. When Zhou Yu first came to this world, he knew nothing about it. Zhou Yu said slowly, when you arrived here through the dimensional gate, someone happened to be beside you. After that, he ordered the woman beside him to attack you without any explanation. In the end, he was no match for you and his woman was easily subdued by you. However, you didn't hurt this human and the woman. Instead, he released them and asked in a friendly manner if this was a matter of the world. So, this human told you that you came to the future world, and that the future world had already been destroyed by a visitor who traveled through time and dimensions like me. That's why he attacked you without any explanation, because we are natural enemies. But I don't have any enmity towards him. Instead, I sympathize with the suffering of the humans in this future world. I plan to fight alongside the humans. You told this to the human, and he was very emotional. He apologized to me repeatedly, saying that he had wronged you, and even wanted to make up for his mistake. After that, you and he fought side by side, killed Yuan Ko, and finally arrived at the gates of Yanjing City. At this point, Zhou Yu's face suddenly revealed an extremely pained and sinister expression. But that guy betrayed you. He told you that he would first report Yu's situation to your lord and give you a legal identity. But what you waited for was indeed an attack from 5 humans. Those humans all had the same strength as you. You was no match for them at all. You could only wait to be captured. In the beginning, you treated you as his compatriots and treated himself as a member of the human race. He expressed Yu's feelings to you as an apostle. However, you trapped you in a cage and continuously conducted all kinds of cruel experiments on Yu's body. You suffered all kinds of torture from you humans. His body was mutilated and his face was ruined. Even Yu's dantian was shattered by you. Yu is ruthless. You wanted nothing more than to kill all of you. You swore to the heavens that when the river flows in reverse, it will be the time of Yu's revenge. Yu, let me ask you. Do you have a clear conscience when you treat someone who truly cares for his compatriots like this? At this point, Zhou Yu no longer had the demeanor of a gentleman. Instead, his face was twisted with endless hatred. Great Sun Sword Immortal, did our Yanjing city really do such a thing? Hearing Zhou Yu's words, Liu Nianling also showed an expression of anger. She could not imagine that her ancestors would actually do such a shameless thing. So she immediately sought confirmation from the Great Sun Sword Immortal. Sigh. The Great Sun Sword Immortal sighed helplessly. Indeed, such a thing did happen, but that was over 600 years ago. At that time, the Battle of the Alps had just ended, and humans were at their most hateful towards Yuan Ko. Unlike your Lun Yen family, who always maintained rationality towards Yuan Ko, we only had one attitude towards Yuan Ko. That was to kill anyone we saw. We did not believe that Yuan Ko had any good intentions. Moreover, if not for the recent appearance of Li Bai, we would not have known that Yuan Ko had not been polluted when he first came to this world. At that time, the sword-bearer thought that Zhou Yu was pretending to be kind and wanted to enter the human city to destroy it. That was why he asked the 5 immortal sword-bearers to work together to capture him after entering the city. The Great Sun Sword Immortal explained. So you admit to it? You admit to the sins you committed then? Hearing the Great Sun Sword Immortal's words, Zhou Yu let out a few long, bitter sighs. But it's fine if you killed you directly. Why? Why did you torture you like that? Because we knew very little about Cosmos-level bandits and Universe-level bandits back then, and it was almost impossible for us to capture a Universe-level bandit alive. But you took the initiative to deliver yourself to the city gates, and were easily captured by us. From the standpoint of us humans, it was only natural to use you for research, said the Great Sun Sword Immortal. Good. What a great natural. I, Zhou Gongjin, have learned my lesson. Zhou Yu's expression hardened as he gritted his teeth. But you miscalculated. You did not expect you to have a chance to survive. I don't know how long you was tortured by you. I only know that you tried to use Yu's soul for some experiment. You completely destroyed Yu's body and tried to isolate Yu's soul, but your experiment failed. Yu's soul dissipated and you was finally freed from your torture. Great Sun Sword Immortal. Why did I not know about this from start to finish? Hearing this, Xian seemed to have reached the end of his patience. He turned around and questioned the Great Sun Sword Immortal. Don't forget, I, Xian, am also a Yuan Ko. Why didn't you capture me for research? This. Inspector Xian, aren't you asking the obvious? You are the comrade-in-arms of the Sword Ancestor, we would never suspect you. As for not telling you, because this is a matter between 2 different research institutes, we have no need to report this to you. The Great Sun Sword Immortal explained weakly. Good. That's how you treat me. Didn't you just say that the 3 of us should be honest with each other? You still hide such an important matter from me. Xian snorted coldly and continued, then let me guess. If I'm not wrong, the last time Zhou Yu conducted his experiment was when our biological brains conducted the neutral field experiment at the same time, right? Inspector Xian, how do you know about this? The Great Sun Sword Immortal asked in shock. Of course, the container that imprisoned the biological brain would only open during the neutral field experiment. Only then would the soul fragments have a chance to enter the biological brain. If I'm not wrong, Governor Zhou, you are the one who entered the biological brain, am I right? Xian said. I don't know if you were conducting some neutral field experiment at the time, but when one of my soul fragments was about to completely dissipate, it was absorbed into this brain. After that, I hid in the brain to recuperate, using the soul fragments to strengthen myself. In the end, I found a chance for revenge. Zhou Yu said through gritted teeth. No wonder the report said that the dimensional whirlpool didn't appear after your death. The researchers guessed that it was because of a special soul experiment that caused your death to be different. Your soul was completely destroyed, so the dimensional whirlpool didn't open. Now it seems that it wasn't because your soul completely dissipated, but because your soul survived. The Great Sun Sword Immortal slapped himself in the face. Even though this was done by the ancestors of Yanjing City 600 years ago, the great Sun Sword Immortal, the chairman of the Yanjing City Sword Council, felt his face burning when he thought about it. At this point, the truth of everything was finally clear. It turned out that the accident this time was caused by Yanjing City, or rather, the entire human race 600 years ago. It was just that the people 600 years ago didn't expect that the revenge would come from the people 600 years later. Fine. Now that things have been made clear, state your conditions. Governor Zhou Yu. Xian's expression calmed down. He looked at Zhou Yu with bright eyes. I'll say it again. Since you're willing to communicate with us, there must be something you want. State your conditions. As long as we can do it, we will satisfy you. Is that so? Can you really satisfy me? Zhou Yu sneered and looked at Gu Han, who had been silent all this while. What if I want his body? Actually, Zhou Yu hasn't changed his original intention. Zhou Yu still wants to be a proper human. Zhou Yu smiled. Chapter 1283. You want my body? Gohan's face froze. He really did not expect Zhou Yu to make such a request. Yuan Ko, the last person who wanted Gohan's life, had been taken away by the dimensional vortex. That's right. Zhou Yu nodded and said, I've said that I always want to be a human. Even though I've been tortured by you humans, I haven't changed my mind. I want to take advantage of this opportunity to have a human body, be a real human, and fight for the future of mankind. Haha. Governor Zhou Yu, don't you think this is ridiculous? Gohan sneered and said, You have tens of millions of human souls as hostages, and you want to take my body, and you say you want to be a human? Isn't that ridiculous? What's so ridiculous about it? As long as I don't change my mind, it doesn't matter what means I use, as long as I achieve my goal. Zhou Yu said calmly, You said that Yu's goal is to be a real human being. Very well. You want to be a human, don't you? Gohan said, I'll find you a young and strong death row prisoner. You just need to borrow his body to resurrect yourself. I'll bear the responsibility for you in the name of Poseidon. As long as you release all human souls, unless it's a great crime of betraying mankind, your descendants will not use what happened today to make things difficult for you. Ha 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 ha. Poseidon, oh Poseidon, do you think I'm a 3-year-old? Zhou Yu burst out laughing when he heard Gohan's words. What? You don't believe my promise? Gohan asked with a frown. No. I believe in Poseidon's promise, but don't forget, I'm Great Wu's governor, Zhou Yu. How can I borrow the body of a death row prisoner to survive? Zhou Yu's breath caught in his throat. Moreover, I haven't realized my ambition in life. I lost to him last time, and this time I must defeat him with my own hands. Otherwise, it will be a waste of my time coming to this world to meet him again. The him you're talking about should be Zhuge Kongming, right? Xian let out a long sigh. You two were entangled in your previous life. Can't you two let go of each other in this world? Of course you can. When you defeats him, it will be the time for you to completely let go. Zhou Yu said in a clear voice, I'm still the most intelligent person in the world. I don't care if I don't want your body. I'm confident that I can defeat Zhuge Kongming in terms of strategy. But now is the era of power, and Zhuge Kongming has become a flood-level Yuan Ko. If I don't borrow your body, how can I have the chance to defeat Zhuge Kongming with my own hands? At this point, Zhou Yu's objective finally became clear. The reason why he wholeheartedly joined the human camp was probably because he wanted to avenge the hatred of his previous life. He wanted to personally defeat Zhuge Kongming, his destined opponent, and not because of the righteousness of the human race. But Zhuge Kongming was a flood-level Yuan Ko. He wasn't an opponent that could be defeated with strategy. That was why Zhou Yu wanted Gohan's body. Among all the humans, Gohan had the most potential. Only by borrowing Gohan's body could Zhou Yu have 100% chance of defeating Zhuge Kongming. Why don't we change the method and wait for Gohan to become an Emperor Sword? Then Gohan will kill Zhuge Kongming for you? Xian suggested. No. I must kill him with my own hands. I won't borrow anyone's help. Zhou Yu said stubbornly. I'll give you 1 day to think about it. I'll come back to you after 1 day. If you don't agree, I'll kill 1,000,000 human souls every day until all human souls are dead. As soon as Zhou Yu finished speaking, he disappeared from the projection. His final sentence had completely cut off all other possibilities, and everyone's eyes were now focused on Gohan. Why are you looking at me? Don't we still have 1 day? Gohan shrugged indifferently when he saw the passionate and hopeful gazes of the people around him. I'm tired. I'll go back and rest. We'll meet here again tomorrow. Gohan left immediately after finishing his sentence. Wait for me. Liu Ling immediately chased after him. Inform the other Sword Immortals to keep an eye on Gohan at all times. Beware of his escape. Great Sun Sword Immortal said to a staff member beside him as he watched Gohan's back disappear into the elevator. There's no need to do such a boring thing. Xian shook his head. Gohan won't escape. You can rest assured. If he wants to leave, no one can stop him unless Haotian Jiendi intervenes. I advise you to run. This is no longer a safe place. Liu Ling immediately advised Gohan after returning to Gohan's hotel. I thought you would advise me to stay and sacrifice myself, Gohan said with a smile when he saw Liu Ling's anxious face. Although I know from most people's point of view, you should stay and even sacrifice yourself, but I can't say such words. Liu Ling said with a face full of anxiety and pain. What about you guys? What do you think? Gohan released all his sword maidens and asked for their opinions. Let's go. It's too dangerous to stay here. Gohan, you won't be a good person either. Qidian expressed her opinion first. Her anxious expression was similar to Liu Ling's. I agree with Qidian. There's no need to stay here any longer. We'll only be bullied by both sides. Itian agreed with Qidian. Brother, let's go. It's not fun here. Doyu pulled Gohan's sleeve and stood on Qidian's side. Don't. Why should we go? It'll be fun if we stay. Zhu Xian saw many people standing with Qidian. She immediately jumped out and said excitedly, I want to see who's so shameless to try and make us sacrifice ourselves. I'll draw a turtle on their faces. It'll be fun. Am I right, sister? Zhu Xian didn't say anything. She let Zhu Xian pull her hand like a child. She said in the end, heaven and earth are heartless. They treat all living things like dogs. Gohan, you don't have to care about these things. Juzi will listen to Master. I'll do whatever Master says. Juzi's answer was the same as before. However, Zhu Xian rolled his eyes and suddenly whispered into Juzi's ear, if Gohan agrees to give his body to Zhou Yu, what will you do, Juzi? Will you listen to Zhou Yu's orders too? Juzi's face swelled. Her face showed a rare hint of anger. I'll kill him. But he's using Gohan's body. He's also your master. Zhu Xian continued to provoke. No. He's not Gohan. Only Gohan is Gohan. Juzi will definitely avenge Gohan. Juzi's face darkened. Qinpin, what do you think? Gohan likes you the most. Why don't you say something? Zhu Xian saw that Juzi couldn't provoke, so he immediately whispered into Qingpin's identity and asked Qingpin. I'm going to draw a circle on his stomach and pull out his intestines. Poor Qing pouted and said. Poor 8 also cooperated with their master's emotions. They stuck out their little heads from poor Qing's hair and nodded in unison. That's right. That's right. Shui your. Gohan wanted to ask for Shui's opinion. However, when he turned around, he realized that Shui hadn't been freed yet. I don't want to see that woman. I won't come out. Shui said in Gohan's Zifu. The woman she was talking about was obviously Liu Ling. It seemed that the gap between these two sisters wasn't that deep. I say, Gohan, don't ask for your sword lady's opinion anymore. Listen to me and leave now. Otherwise, it'll really be too late. I'm afraid that Hao Tianjiendi will make a move in the end. Liu Ling said anxiously. I can't leave. Gohan shook his head. If I leave, these tens of millions of human souls will be completely finished. I may not care about the people in other cities, but I can't do that in my Yuzhong city. I have to save them. So, you're planning to be a good person and really give your body to Zhou Yu? Liu Ling said impatiently. That's not for sure. Gohan smiled slightly. Maybe I want to be a saint. Chairman, everyone is in place. There are thousands of people surrounding the entire hotel. The surrounding void has also been sealed. There are also 4 immortal swordsmen guarding the 4 sides to ensure that Gohan can't escape from the hotel. In the headquarters of the Sword Committee, a subordinate reported to the Great Sun Sword Immortal. I know. You can leave now. The Great Sun Sword Immortal looked at the hotel that Gohan was staying in through the window. His face was full of guilt as he said, Your Majesty, I'm sorry. I didn't want to do this either. But there are tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of human souls in here. This is all I can do. Compared to the Great Sun Sword Immortal's guilt, the people in the various base cities were probably even more frantic. When these people realized that their loved ones couldn't escape from the game no matter what, they were already panicking. Although the television repeatedly assured the people that this was only a large-scale bug in the game system, that everyone's lives were still safe, and that these trapped humans could immediately leave the game. At first, people still chose to believe the government's explanation, believing that their loved ones would wake up soon. But when they realized that the entire world's network had been cut off in an instant, that all modern communication tools had lost their function, and that there was no response from their loved ones even after 7 or 8 hours had passed. Only the television stations kept repeating the news that reassured everyone, the angry people exploded. They started to take to the streets, forming waves of people, and headed towards the various important human government departments and core areas to surround. In an instant, the entire human society was thrown into chaos. Chapter 1284. We want the truth. We want the truth. We want the truth. The enraged crowd took to the streets and began to cry out. They were angry at the government's stupidity and concealment. In the face of the people's protests, the dozen or so projection screens around them showed officials shouting to the crowd, hoping that the crowd would calm down and deal with all this rationally. Of course, this was of no use. Looking at everything that was happening outside the window, Liu Ling's expression was extremely ugly. Gohan, on the other hand, was very calm, as if he did not see any of this. But what happened next completely put Liu Ling in a difficult position. The image on the projection screen that was broadcasting the officials' persuasions suddenly changed, and an armored general appeared. It was none other than Zhou Yu. Since everyone wants to know the truth, then Zhou Yu will tell everyone the truth. Zhou Yu spoke frankly and confidently on the projection screen, telling the entire story. Finally, he even told everyone about how he wanted to use Gohan's body to exchange for the lives of those souls. Gohan, I know you can see this video. The souls of these tens of millions of people are in your hands. You must not make any irrational decisions. Don't worry, after I obtain your body, I will definitely fulfill your unfulfilled wish. I will kill all the Yuan Ko. That way, you will not have lived in vain. That's right, and everyone here, if you want to see your loved ones alive, then beg your Majesty the Sea King. Only if he is willing to sacrifice himself will your loved ones be able to return alive. Ha 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 ha. After saying this, Zhou Yu's projection was cut off. Then, the figures of the embarrassed officials appeared on the projection screen again. Your Majesty the Sea King, I'm sorry. This video must have been planted in the television station by Zhou Yu beforehand. We have already cut off the network. Zhou Yu cannot communicate with the outside world. After a while, the Great Sun Sword Immortal explained. I understand. Guhan did not give the great sun sword immortal a chance to speak and cut off the communication. What do you think? Is it really a recording that Zhou Yu planted at the TV station? Liu Ling looked at Guhan and asked. I don't know if they were planted in advance, but I do know that if Yanjing City wanted to stop it, they could have just cut off all television signals the moment the video was broadcast. Guhan laughed coldly. Looks like this great sun sword immortal wants to use public opinion to force me. After the video was played, all the protesters were stunned. They had to spend a few minutes processing the information in their heads. When these messages were processed, a white-haired old man suddenly looked up to the sky and used his old and desolate voice to shout, Your Majesty the Ocean Emperor, where are you? Come out and say something. Where are you? Your Majesty the Sea King, where are you? Please come out. The old man's voice resonated with the others. At this moment, what they wanted the most was to see Guhan come out personally and tell them that he was willing to use his body to exchange for the lives of their loved ones. More and more people learned of the truth through Zhou Yu's video. These people who had lost their loved ones immediately ran out of their homes and joined the crowd protesting and shouting on the street. More and more people gathered on the streets, from a few million at the beginning to tens of millions. In the end, almost 90% of the people came out of their homes. Once these people came out onto the streets, they shouted along with everyone else, hoping that Guhan would come out and tell them the truth, answer their questions, and most importantly, give them some peace of mind. And this peace of mind was undoubtedly Guhan's declaration. Guhan was willing to sacrifice himself for the lives of tens of millions of people. As a result, the tens of millions of people in Yanjing City asked in unison where Guhan was, hoping that Guhan would come out and meet them. Their voices resounded through the sky, and even the walls of the hotel began to shake violently. Guhan, should we go out and give them an explanation? Fleeting Time's mind was in a mess when he heard the thunderous cheers. It's fine. Let them shout, we'll just treat it as music, Guhan said indifferently, not the slightest bit bothered by the deafening shouts outside the window. These pitiful people screamed for an entire hour, but Guhan still did not show himself. Naturally, they felt a sense of sorrow and urgency in their hearts, because Guhan's attitude had already been expressed through his refusal to show himself. If Guhan was willing to sacrifice himself, then Guhan obviously did not need to continue hiding, and would appear in front of everyone to express his attitude. But if Guhan had been hiding, then it was obvious that Guhan was not willing to agree to all of this. He did not want to sacrifice his small life for the lives of tens of millions of people. Your Majesty the Sea Emperor, this old man begs you. My 3 grandsons are not even 20 years old yet. They still have a lot of years to live. Your Majesty the Sea Emperor, I beg you, we will be grateful to you for a lifetime. Just agree to it. At first, the old man mustered up the last bit of his strength to shout. Then, he bent his knees and knelt on the ground without hesitation, pleading to Guhan. Your Majesty the Sea Emperor, this old man is also begging you. I beg you. This old man's actions once again infected the surrounding people's actions, and they all knelt down one after another, wanting to use their dignity to beg Guhan for mercy. Because they were worried about their loved ones, more and more people chose to learn from this old man, kneeling on the ground and begging Guhan. The entire street of people knelt down one after another, and even those who did not want to kneel, seeing the reaction of the people around them, involuntarily followed suit. There were even those who were a little more stubborn, and refused to kneel no matter what, but were forcefully pulled down by the clothes of the people around them. Therefore, an hour and 10 minutes after Zhou Yu's appearance, 90% of the people in Beijing City knelt on the ground, begging Guhan for mercy and to save their loved ones. Most of them could not even speak, and only the sound of crying could be heard. Soon after, the whole of Beijing City was shrouded in these cries. Guhan. They are too vicious. Seeing this scene, seeing tens of millions of people crying at the same time, Liu Ling, who had just persuaded Gohan to leave, retreated a few steps weakly, fell to the ground, and muttered, "They are too pitiful. Gohan, why don't you agree to them? I can die with you." Sigh. Gohan let out a long sigh, and stood up from his chair. He looked through the window at the people kneeling on the street, and said with a bitter smile, "I originally thought that when everyone kneels to me, it would be the time for me to ascend to the throne and become the emperor. Who would have thought that today, in order to take my life, these people would kneel to me?" "Ling, don't you think this is very sad?" Gohan said in a melancholy tone. "Sad? It's all very sad," Liu Ling said dejectedly. "Humans are sad, these people are sad, and those souls are sad too. Gohan, I really don't know what to do. Come, let's analyze this. If I really agree to these people's request, what will happen to me?" Gohan looked at the black mass of people kneeling outside, and said with a smile, "First of all, if I really give my body to Zhou, I'll definitely die. Or my soul will forever be floating in the game. That's even more tragic than death. However, it's the new me, Zhou. Because of my strength, the humans will definitely not let such a combat power disappear. Therefore, they will definitely not do anything to the new Zhou. Perhaps they will even shake hands with Zhou and become friends with him. Then, it's these people kneeling on the ground. In the first few years of my death, perhaps on this day every year, they will burn incense for me, say a few good things about not having to spend money, and beg me to protect them. Then, in order to create a good reputation for himself, Zhou will definitely try his best to clear his name, and slander or suppress my reputation. And whether it's the Great Sun Sword Immortal or the other immortal sword wielders in Yanjing City, in order to cover up the fact that they forced me to do so today, they will definitely cooperate with Zhou to clear his name, so that everyone else can clear their names with him. In this world, the people are the easiest to deceive. Therefore, it's not too bad that I'm completely forgotten by the people. Perhaps I'll even be slandered as an unforgivable villain, and Zhou will become the savior of humanity, while I'll become a clown on his path to success. This is probably the result of me agreeing to sacrifice myself. What do you think? Gohan asked Liu Ling. And Liu Ling opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something, but in the end she could not say a single word. Because she understood that the truth was very likely to be as Gohan had said. Gohan, a great man who had sacrificed himself, would ultimately be slandered as a villain. This kind of example was not uncommon, and the history books were filled with such unlucky people. After a moment of silence, Liu Ling asked again, "What if you don't agree?" "If I don't agree, let's not even talk about whether humanity has any other way to save those souls. Even if there's no other way, then Zhou will kill all the human souls. That'll be the end result," Gohan said with a grin. "The relatives of those dead humans will probably hate me very much, and want to eat me alive. I can only hide in the wild for a while. In about another 10 or so years, those old things who hate me the most will probably have reached the end of their lifespans and died. Those young people will start to find their own new partners and form a new life. Let bygones be bygones. And the children will probably completely forget about these things. They won't care about these things. When that time comes, I'll come out and kill a few elite Yuan-Kos, protect a few human cities, and give some consolation money to the families of those who died. Then I'll immediately become a responsible person, a good person who will finish what I started. In order to obtain my protection, all the humans will also suck up to me and sing praises. As for what happened today, it will also be thrown into the long river of history. After all, humans are all realistic animals." Gohan smiled and looked at the door. "Great Sun Sword Immortal, what choice do you think I should make?" Chapter 1285. Ashamed. Ashamed. The Great Sun Sword Immortal pushed the door open and walked into Gohan's room. Actually, he had already arrived long ago, but had been hiding outside the door to eavesdrop on Gohan and Liunianling's conversation. But he had not expected that Gohan had already discovered him. There's no need to speak of shame. Please answer my question, Great Sun Sword Immortal. What do you think of this matter? Should I respond to the pleas of those people outside? Gohan asked with narrowed eyes. The Great Sun Sword Immortal was in a difficult position. He really did not know how to answer this question. According to the Great Sun Sword Immortal's heart, he naturally hoped that Gohan could sacrifice himself for the greater good and save the lives of tens of millions of people. But when these words were on the tip of his tongue, the Great Sun Sword Immortal could not bring himself to say them, because he knew clearly that this was a moral blackmail. Moreover, Gohan had no moral responsibility. He did not need to sacrifice himself for these humans. Even if it was tens of millions of lives, he could only ask Gohan from a moral point of view. I only hope that His Majesty the Sea Sovereign can be righteous and make the right decision for humanity. The Great Sun Sword Immortal was too ashamed to say it directly, and could only say it in a roundabout way. Righteous? Gohan said this word playfully. He looked meaningfully at the people kneeling outside. Are these people righteous as well? The Great Sun Sword Immortal hesitated for a moment, then said through gritted teeth, Righteousness is the righteousness of the general situation. The general situation of the world is here, and that is righteousness. In that case, the righteousness of the majority is righteousness, and the righteousness of the minority is not righteousness. A look of disgust flashed across Gohan's face. I heard that before the Great Calamity, the entire world was a so-called democratic country. All the major and minor matters of the country were decided by democratic voting. Then if one day 99% of the people of the country voted for the remaining 1% who have not committed any crimes to die, is that still righteousness? Does the government also want to kill those people? Gohan did not give the Great Sun Sword Immortal any time to think, and asked without pause. The Great Sun Sword Immortal was forced into a corner by Gohan's question. Yes, if 99% of humanity voted for the remaining 1% to die, then did the 1% really deserve to die? If this continued and 99,999% of the world's people wanted the 0.00001% of Gohan to die, then should Gohan die? The Great Sun Sword Immortal felt that he was completely unable to answer this question. His logic was about to be completely messed up. Of course, that is righteousness. The Great Sun Sword Immortal could not answer, but someone walked out and answered for him. This person was none other than Chu Xian. I wonder what Mr. Xian's opinion is? Gohan asked with a frown. Gohan, do you know what the history of Yan Huang was like during the Middle Ages before the Great Calamity? Xian asked. It was just a feudal society with a change of dynasties. Although most of the history of the Middle Ages had withered, Gohan still knew the general framework. That's right. Xia, Shang, Zhou, Spring and Autumn, Warring States, Qin, Han, Jin, Northern and Southern dynasties, Sui, Tang, 5 dynasties, Song, Yuan, Ming, Qing, as well as the Republic of China and the Celestial Empire. In thousands of years of history, our Yan Huang lived like this. Xian sighed. The affairs of the world must be separated after a long time, and united after a long time. This cycle has continued for thousands of years. This is the righteousness of the world, and also the fate of the world. The people suffer when they prosper, and suffer when they perish. Every change of dynasty meant millions, or even tens of millions of people died in the endless flames of war. The worst time was when all the Han people in the north died. 30 million lives were turned into specters, and 70% of Huaxia's population was destroyed. I want to ask you, Gohan, did all those people who died commit crimes that deserved the death penalty? Did they deserve to die in the chaos of war? Weren't they all innocent and pitiful people? There was no need for 99% to 1% voting. 30% of humanity could kill 70% of humanity in the name of righteousness. What's funny is that later generations still sang praises for this period of history. In their textbooks, it was written like this: the who gained power in the north were gradually assimilated into the Han culture, and the barriers between the Hu and Han gradually melted. This period was the time when all the races of Xia merged. As the dominant culture in the Central Plains, the Han also absorbed the essence of the other races and injected cultural genes into the prosperity of the Sui and Tang dynasties. Look, it's written so well. The lives of 30 million people in exchange for the great integration of the races and the prosperity of the Sui and Tang dynasties. This is the righteousness of the world. That's why Gohan, as long as the righteousness is there, not just you, even tens of millions of people have to give up their lives. Xian finally finished his sentence. But whether it was Gohan, the great sun sword immortal Liu Ling, or the other sword maidens, everyone was confused. Everyone was confused by Xian's words. They couldn't understand what he was trying to say. It sounded like Xian was telling Gohan that for the righteousness of the world, tens of millions of lives could be sacrificed. Thus, it was only natural that he, Gohan, would sacrifice his insignificant life for them. But after thinking about it carefully, it didn't feel like that at all. Xian was obviously implying something, but he couldn't understand what Xian was trying to say. Thank you, Lord Xian. I understand. Gohan thought for a long time. The muscles on his face suddenly relaxed, and he showed a faint smile. Gohan obviously understood what Xian was trying to say. Do it if you understand. Do what you should do, Xian said. Okay. Gohan nodded. All the sword maidens around him turned into light and flew into the scabbard at Gohan's waist. The atmosphere in the room froze. Everyone knew that Gohan had made up his mind. That was why he recalled all his sword maidens. Get ready. The great sun sword immortal secretly made a gesture with his hand behind his back. The few people behind him immediately took out their personal terminals and whispered a few words. The great sun sword immortal himself stared fixedly at Gohan, not letting him off the hook even if he made a move. Ha ha! Gohan smiled. With a speed that no one could see, he drew out his extinguished immortal sword and lightly brushed it against the wall in front of him. The entire wall was cut into pieces in an instant. A fierce ray of sunlight shone through the open wall and into the room. At the same time, the people kneeling outside also noticed the commotion in the hotel. They saw an entire wall disappear, revealing many people standing inside. Oh, isn't that Her Majesty Poseidon? A citizen with good eyesight recognized Gohan standing in the room at a glance and said excitedly, That's right. It's Her Majesty Poseidon. It really is Her Majesty Poseidon. The surrounding people followed closely behind. After confirming that Gohan was in the room, the entire scene became chaotic. Countless people gathered towards the hotel, blocking the path below. It was so tight that even a mouse couldn't find a place to step. Her Majesty Poseidon. Save our loved ones. Her Majesty Poseidon. I beg you. My 3 grandsons aren't of age yet. I beg you. Save them. The citizens began to cry out loudly, tears streaming down their faces. Tens of millions of people kneeling and begging. Even someone with a heart made of stone would be moved by this scene. However, Gohan in the room didn't respond. For a few minutes, he didn't say a word. He just looked at everyone quietly. This made everyone's heart feel anxious. They didn't know what decision Gohan would make. For a moment, the entire Yanjing city was filled with anxiety. Everyone, stop talking. Her Majesty Poseidon is willing to come out to see us. It must mean that she has agreed to everyone's request. Everyone, don't worry. Someone shouted loudly. He was amazing. Before Gohan could speak, he had already made a decision for Gohan. Yes. Everyone, quickly kowtow. Quickly kowtow and thank Her Majesty Poseidon. There were some smart people among them. They immediately understood the deeper meaning of this and began to make a ruckus around them. The crowd followed the crowd. When they heard that Gohan was willing to save them, they didn't care so much and started kowtowing to Gohan. Soon, everyone in Yanjing City was kowtowing to Gohan. Some people's foreheads were even swollen. At this time, even an idiot could see that these people wanted to create a predetermined fact, and then use it to force Gohan. Look, these tens of millions of people are kowtowing to you at the same time, and you still have the face to refuse everyone's request? This was like saying, we all say that resettling refugees is a good thing. Huaxia, you should hurry up and open your country's doors to resettle the refugees. Otherwise, how can you live up to the universal values? Well, although this analogy was a little off, it basically meant the same thing. What a powerful method! Seeing this scene, Xian couldn't help but mutter to himself. The great sun sword immortal behind him blushed. Obviously, this method was arranged by him. After the great sun sword immortal blushed, he turned his gaze to Gohan. He really wanted to know what choice Gohan would make under the pleas of these tens of millions of people. Everyone, I know all your requests. Finally, Gohan stepped out of the room and walked straight in the air. At this moment, everyone raised their heads and stared at Gohan in the sky, wanting to hear the words that they were waiting for from his mouth. I admit, you are indeed very pitiful. Your family is your backbone, and now you have become a group of dogs with broken backs. Gohan's voice was extremely loud. With the transmission of sword chi, not to mention those near the hotel, even those tens of kilometers away could hear him clearly. Chapter 1286. Broken Back Hound? What does that mean? People started to ask each other. Most of them were not cultured enough to understand the meaning of Broken Back Hound. Only a small number of people were livid and told the people around them the meaning of Broken Back Hound. At this time, everyone understood that Gohan was calling them dogs. Surnamed Gu, you actually dare to call us dogs? That's right. What right do you have to scold us? How can you scold us? Do you still have the qualities of a sword wielder? Some people who could not hold back their anger immediately jumped out and criticized Gohan. How strange. Gohan revealed a disdainful smile. You guys are begging me to sacrifice my life, so I can't even ask for a word of scolding you. Gohan's words made people suddenly silent. Yes, they were begging him to sacrifice his life, so didn't they have the right to scold him? Most people were silent, but there was still a small number of people who were unwilling to be insulted by Gohan like this. They continued to refute. This has nothing to do with our lives, this is our dignity. What right do you have to insult our dignity? Ha 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 ha. What a big joke, it's really funny. Gohan could not help but be amused by such words. So dignity is more important than life. Alright, I will respect your dignity and then kill you, okay? That person was scared and did not dare to speak anymore. However, Gohan did not intend to let him go. Gohan's hand clenched in the void, and that person was caught by an invisible sword chi. Like a little chick, he was caught in front of Gohan. This poor guy kept struggling like a drowning cat. Come, 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 Gohan said with a smile. How about this? No matter how insulting you are, I will let you insult me 100 times. I will give you enough dignity, and then you will sacrifice your life, okay? As soon as Gohan's voice fell, a gleaming sword flew out of Gohan's dimensional pocket. The sharp blade was aimed at the man's chest, causing him to scream in fear. I was wrong. Let me go. Dignity is not as important as life. This guy was really frightened. Not only did hot tears flow out of his eyes, but even his lower body also had stinky liquid flowing out. Soon, it soaked his pants and finally fell to the ground. As for the humans on the ground, they hurriedly tried to escape with a look of disgust on their faces. However, the ground was too crowded, and there was no space for them to escape. In the end, the entire ground was in a complete mess, as if it was a joke. Useless bastard! Gohan saw that this person had pissed all over, and tossed him back out of boredom. The Great Sun Sword Immortal immediately flew out and caught this unlucky guy, saving his life. Otherwise, he would definitely have fallen to his death. Your Majesty the Sea King, how can you do this? Among the tens of millions of people, there was no lack of courageous people. A scholarly youth stood up from the ground and looked straight at Gohan. You are the Sea King, how can you play with us like this? Do you still want your Sea King's face? I don't want to, Gohan replied without hesitation. This youth was instantly choked by Gohan. Your Majesty the Sea King, we tens of millions of people are kneeling on the ground begging you. Don't you have any compassion? Can't you sacrifice yourself for the lives of tens of millions of people? A young woman in her 30s also stood up from the ground. She looked fearlessly at Gohan and asked loudly, some of these people are still children who have just come of age, some are the parents of newborn children, and some are middle-aged people who have dedicated their lives to this world. There are also countless people who are closest to their parents, and many sword-bearers who have fought alongside you. Can you bear to see these people die? And hearing this, Gohan couldn't help but nod. It must have been hard on you. You memorized such a long paragraph. Not bad. I didn't. The young woman was stunned when she heard this and quickly refuted. It's fine. It doesn't matter if you memorized it or not. You can come over too. Gohan smiled, and just like the man, the young woman was caught by Gohan and brought in front of him. You just said that tens of millions of people are kneeling on the ground begging me. I should sacrifice my life, right? Gohan said and confirmed again. That's what you mean, right? That's right. The young woman closed her eyes and said righteously. Good, good, good. Gohan said the word good 3 times, then looked at the young woman with a gentle look and asked, May I ask what your name is? My name is Bai Jie. The young woman didn't understand why Gohan would ask her name, but she still answered stiffly. That's good. Miss Bai Jie, I'll give you a chance. Gohan handed the sword to the young woman and said to the people kneeling below, The decision is not in my hands, but in the hands of this Miss Bai Jie. You guys beg her now. If she's willing to sacrifice her life to help me, I'll help you guys. Gohan's words caused everyone to freeze for a moment. After a short moment of shock, everyone immediately called out without hesitation, Miss Bai Jie. I'm begging you. Miss Bai Jie. These people's tone was very sincere. It was not much different from when they begged Gohan. Bai Jie was a little dumbfounded when she heard the countless people she gave birth to plead with her. These voices seemed to be controlling her body. The sword in her hand couldn't help but tremble, and the tip of the sword gradually approached her neck. Seeing Bai Jie's actions, the people found that they were getting closer and closer to the life of their loved ones. They immediately became more anxious, and the voices became several times more intense than before. Every word was like a knife, deeply stabbing into Bai Jie's heart, forcing her to end her life. Do you have a child? Just as the sword in Bai Jie's hand was about to touch her neck, Gohan suddenly asked. I have in my stomach. When Bai Jie said this, she was a little dumbfounded, but in the next second she came to her senses. Yes, her child is still in her stomach. If she dies, then wouldn't my child be? Thinking of this, Bai Jie felt that the shouts outside were like crazy beasts that wanted to skin her alive. She could no longer bear such fear and love for her child. The sword in her hand fell to the ground and she cried, I don't want to die. I still have my child. I can't die, humph. Gohan snorted coldly, and Bai Jie gently fell to the ground, escaping from Gohan's clutches. But she only escaped from Gohan's clutches. Seeing Bai Jie fall to the ground, the surrounding people immediately surrounded her. Each of these people had a hideous expression, and their faces were filled with madness and anger. They cursed loudly, Why don't you agree to our request? Why don't you die? You bitch, didn't you hear us begging you so earnestly? Why don't you die? That's right. Do you still have a little conscience? Our children's lives are in the game. That's the lives of tens of millions of people. Why don't you die? I still have a child. My child is in my stomach. I can't die. I really can't die. Bai Jie was frightened by this scene, and she stuttered. Bitch. What's your life? What's your child that hasn't grown up? It's just 2 cheap lives. How can it compare to the lives of tens of millions of people? That's right, it's just 2 people's lives. Sacrificing them can save tens of millions of people's lives. This is a great thing. What right do you have to refuse? What right do you have to live? It's this bitch. She caused the death of our family. I'm going to kill you. An old man who was about to die suddenly shouted, and then he removed a belt from his waist and slapped Bai Jie's face. This old man's action completely triggered the anger of the others. They imitated the old man, removed the belt, and began to slap Bai Jie's body. Worrying about the lives of their loved ones, suffering in fear for more than 10 hours, as well as the unwillingness and anger of kneeling on the ground for more than an hour, and finally Gohan's unyielding attitude. All of these added together caused the inner demon in everyone's heart to grow. When there was a reasonable target that everyone agreed on, this target naturally became the best target for them to vent their anger on. In less than 10 seconds, Bai Jie's body was left with dozens of deep belt marks. Oh no! The great Sun Sword Immortal realized that something was wrong. Without another word, he immediately opened the Gate of Void. In the next second, he appeared beside Bai Jie and pulled her into the Gate of Void. When Bai Jie came out of the Gate of Void, her body was already a bloody mess. She was also on the verge of death. A pool of blood flowed from her lower body, and it looked like she was about to die. Gohan. The great Sun Sword Immortal looked deeply at Gohan. If Bai Jie really died in the hands of these thugs, then Gohan would have an absolute reason to refuse. Even if he didn't consider this, if this matter spread out that someone in Yanjing City beat a poor pregnant woman to death for the lives of their loved ones, then Yanjing City's reputation would become a pile of dog shit. So no matter what, the great Sun Sword Immortal couldn't let Bai Jie die here. Without another word, he sent Bai Jie into his medical pod. After a while, the medical pod showed that Bai Jie's vitals were stable and she was safe. But her unborn child in the womb wasn't so lucky. The medical pod didn't have the ability to treat such an unborn child. This child was already dead. Chapter 1287. Gohan, what the hell are you going to do? Looking at Gohan floating outside the window, and then looking at the pale mature woman in the medical cabin, Liu Ling was worried. Liu Ling couldn't imagine what she would do if she was in Gohan's position. Since Miss Bai Jie is not willing to sacrifice herself, then I naturally can't sacrifice myself. Friends, goodbye. Gohan in the sky smiled slightly and said to the crowd on the road. What? The people kneeling on the ground were shocked. This Gohan is actually going to leave. Next, Gohan used his actual actions to prove that he was telling the truth. Gohan's body began to fly quickly towards the city wall. With Gohan's speed, in less than 10 minutes, Gohan can leave Yanjing City. We can't let him go! We can't let him go! The people on the ground shouted one after another. Those who said that they couldn't let Gohan go were still polite. Some people with bad tempers directly shouted, Don't let this beast go, let him pay for the death of our loved ones. That's right, don't let go of this immoral and ungrateful bastard, we want him to pay for the deaths of our loved ones. All right, Gohan instantly became an immoral and ungrateful bastard. That's right. This bastard just forced a poor woman and the child in her stomach to die. It's all because of this bastard. The people who had just beaten up Bai Jie rolled their eyes and shouted in unison from the crowd. Since Gohan has become the target of public criticism, it's best to throw the crime of murder on Gohan's head. In the blink of an eye, Gohan had turned from the Ocean Emperor that everyone respected, the Ocean Emperor that knelt on the ground and begged for mercy, into a beast that everyone wanted to eat alive. The story behind this could not be said to be a comedy, but it could not be said to be not interesting, and it could not be said to be not sad. It doesn't matter, we definitely can't let Gohan leave, do it? In the room, the great Sun Sword Immortal ordered his personal terminal. Immediately, the entire void of Yanjing City began to tremble. 6 positions in all directions of Gohan's path appeared at the same time, and finally, 6 void doors opened in 6 directions. 6 immortal sword bearers walked out of the void doors and tightly surrounded Gohan. Yo! 6 immortal sword bearers! What a grand scene! Seeing the appearance of the 6 immortal sword bearers, Gohan suddenly stopped in midair. This was because Gohan knew that if he didn't find a way to get rid of these 6 immortal sword bearers, he wouldn't be able to leave this place. Yanjing City had the highest number of immortal sword bearers out of all the base cities. There were a total of 9 immortal sword bearers, and 6 of them blocked Gohan's path. Sirs, you really think highly of me, Gohan, to actually set up such a grand scene. Seeing that all 6 immortal sword bearers had appeared, Gohan said mockingly. At the same time, he looked at the immortal sword bearer blocking his northwest direction and said, Senior Sword Immortal Wuzhong, the 2 of us meet again. Yes, the immortal sword bearer blocking Gohan's northwest direction was none other than Wuzhong Shifang, the immortal sword bearer that Gohan had first met in Yanjing City. He had also almost become Gohan's master. Gohan, sigh. I've let you down today. Wuzhong Shifang's expression was one of embarrassment. Of course, he knew that Gohan had no obligation to sacrifice his life for humanity. But now, the lives of tens of millions of people had forced Wuzhong Shifang to stand against Gohan. This made Wuzhong Shifang, who used to have a good relationship with Gohan, feel extremely embarrassed, and he was deeply reprimanded. Your Majesty the Sea King, today, the 6 of us have stopped you, but for the sake of humanity, Your Majesty the Sea King will have to suffer. A handsome, model-like immortal sword bearer said, Your Majesty the Sea King, you'd better surrender. With the 6 of us here, you won't be able to escape from us. Isn't this our Starry Night Sword Immortal, Master Xiazichin? Starry Night Sword Immortal was the youngest immortal sword bearer in Yanjing City. He had only become an immortal sword bearer the year before last. And this immortal sword bearer had a world-famous hobby. He had no interest in women, but he did not like pure men either. He liked crossdressers. And his 2 wives were extremely popular crossdressers on the internet. Their marriage had caused an uproar all over the world, dominating the news headlines for a whole year. Gohan smiled slightly and asked, May I ask Starry Night Sword Immortal, in the great cause of humanity, is there a rule that says innocent people must sacrifice their lives to save others? Of course there is no such rule. Sword Immortal Starry Night heaved a faint sigh before speaking in a righteous voice, but as humans we cannot go against the greater good of the human race. Since the lives of tens of millions of people are at stake, and since these tens of millions of humans are kneeling before Your Majesty, the Sea Monarch, then why doesn't Your Majesty show some compassion and help these pitiful people? Is that so? Gohan looked at Starry Night Sword Immortal with a smile and said, I heard that when Starry Night Sword Immortal wanted to marry Madame Xian Mo and Madame Yuchan, your father and mother knelt before you and begged you not to do such a thing and kill off the Xia family's descendants. Why did Starry Night Sword Immortal ignore them in the end? Could it be that the dignity of your parents can't compare to the prayers of those insignificant people? The Starry Night Sword Immortal's face instantly turned deathly pale. Everyone knew that he had married those 2 crossdressers despite the pressure from his parents. Even now, his parents had not forgiven him and did not allow the Starry Night Sword Immortal to take a single step into their home. This had always been the greatest source of pain in the Starry Night Sword Immortal's heart. Today, he had been exposed by Gohan, and he was instantly rendered speechless. Bah! You be *starred, don't hit me in the face when you're hitting me, but don't point out my shortcomings when you're insulting me. How could you use this kind of topic to humiliate the Starry Night Sword Immortal? Is this Thunder and Fire Sword Immortal Lord Rantianhao? Gohan asked the bearded man. That's right, it's me. The bearded man nodded and admitted. This bearded man was just like his title. He was a man with a fiery temper like thunder and fire. He might not be the strongest among all the immortal sword immortals in Yanjing City, but his temper was definitely the most explosive. I heard that the Thunder and Fire Sword Immortal and a few dozen of his teammates went to destroy the Hero Alliance's base, but in the end, the Thunder and Fire Sword Immortal escaped alone. In the end, only 3 of his Sword Immortals returned to Yanjing City. These 3 surviving companions never spoke to the Thunder and Fire Sword Immortal again. They didn't even want to see his face. From then on, they were like strangers. What's the reason for this? Gohan asked with a smile. You. The Thunder and Fire Sword Immortal's face twitched. That was the biggest blemish in his life. Back then, he was merely a treasure sword immortal, but with his fiery temper, he didn't even care about the dragon grade Yuan Ko. He and his companions went to challenge the Hero Alliance's base. Naturally, the entire team suffered a crushing defeat. In the end, the Thunder and Fire Sword Immortal was scared out of his wits. He abandoned his brothers on the battlefield and escaped first. However, he didn't expect that 3 of his companions would escape and spread the news. Since then, the Thunder and Fire Sword Immortal became a disgrace to Yanjing City. Even after the Thunder and Fire Sword Immortal became an immortal sword immortals, people kept bringing up this blemish. Of course, no one dared to mention this to the Thunder and Fire Sword Immortal's face, except for this Gohan. Thunder and Fire Sword Immortal, you abandoned a few dozen brothers for your own life back then. Why can't I, Gohan, abandon these ignorant fools for my own life today? Gohan asked coldly. No matter how thick-skinned Sword Immortal Thunder and Fire was, he couldn't say anything in the face of Gohan's question. After all, his actions in the past had been improper. He had no right to advise Gohan. Your Majesty, there is no need to bring up the past again. Thunderfire has already turned over a new leaf, and he has made great contributions to humanity. Later on, he personally destroyed the Hero Alliance base to avenge his friend. Thunderfire has already made up for his past mistakes. Another Immortal Sword rank swordsman jumped out to defend the Thunderfire Sword Immortal. You must be Sword Immortal Jimu of the Minamoto clan. Gohan glanced at the Immortal Sword wielder who had spoken. He was Sword Immortal Minamoto of the Minamoto clan, and he had the closest relationship with the Thunderfire Sword Immortal. They were extremely good friends, so it was only natural that he would speak up for the Thunderfire Sword Immortal. Sword Immortal Minamoto, what you say makes a lot of sense. This junior has learned his lesson. Gohan bowed slightly to this Sword Immortal Minamoto of the Minamoto clan. Seeing Gohan bow to him, the Sword Immortal Minamoto of the Minamoto clan had a smug expression on his face. However, in the next second, his expression crumbled. Then, according to Senior Minamoto, as long as I turn over a new leaf, I can make up for my past mistake. Then this junior will go kill that living brain and kill Zhou, who is residing in the brain. This way, I will avenge those innocent victims, and I will have successfully turned over a new leaf and made up for my past mistake. I, Gohan, will still be a great hero of humanity. Gohan's words rendered the Minamoto clan Sword Immortal Minamoto completely speechless. The other party was using his own logic to defeat him. If he wanted to convince the other party, he would first have to shatter his own logic. How could the Minamoto clan Sword Immortal Minamoto of the Minamoto clan do that? In the end, he could only keep quiet. Chapter 1288. Gohan, don't try to talk your way out here. Another female Sword Immortal could not stand it anymore. She jumped out and said, Are you a man or not? If you are, then take responsibility for this. What's so great about bullying women? You even bullied a pregnant woman. Do you know that the child in that poor woman's belly has already died because of you? You are a murderer. This female sword immortal level sword wielder said indignantly. She was Frosty Sword Immortal, Frosty Moon. Go away, woman. I can't be bothered to talk to you, and I don't want to waste words with you, Gohan said disdainfully. Frosty Sword Immortal, F***ck off. Cough cough. I won't say anything. The last lingering sword immortal, Li Hua, said with a pained expression. All right, all 6 sword immortal level sword wielder had finally appeared. Oh no, not 6 but 7. After lingering sword immortal Li Hua finished speaking, the great sun sword immortal also appeared beside Gohan. 7 sword immortal level sword wielders surrounded Gohan at the same time. In addition, Gohan did not have the ability to enter the void. This time, it was really impossible for Gohan to escape. Good. Catch him. Catch this B*****. At the same time, seeing the 7 sword immortal level sword wielders surrounding Gohan, the citizens on the streets immediately began to cheer. They jumped up from the ground and sang and danced, cheering as if the carnival had arrived. These ignorant fools. One of the sword wielder in the sky said with disgust as he looked at the singing and dancing on the ground. However, the person who spoke was not Gohan, but Starry Night Sword Immortal Xiazichin. Although one of his 3 views had been ruined, the other 2 were surprisingly upright. Of course, these people think that I can't escape, and think that I can use my life to exchange for the lives of their loved ones. Of course they're going to start celebrating, Gohan said with a smile. Seeing Gohan's smile, the rest of the people couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. This guy could still laugh at this time. What exactly was in his head? Your Majesty, do you think you can escape? Seeing the smile on Gohan's face, the great sun sword immortal was actually a little nervous, and asked in a trembling voice. Of course I can escape. Gohan nodded matter-of-factly. So you think you can defeat all 7 of us alone? The great sun sword immortal was very sure that it was impossible for Gohan to defeat 7 immortal sword wielders single-handedly. But since these words came out of Gohan's mouth, the great sun sword immortal had a strange feeling in his heart. This Gohan was probably speaking the truth. He really did not take the 7 immortal sword bearers seriously at all. Then let's give it a try. Gohan raised the immortal extinguished sword in his hand, and all the sword immortal level bearers went into a state of extreme vigilance. They immediately released their sword immortal level sword maidens, and a battle between the 8 supreme sword bearers was about to begin. The people on the streets also stopped cheering at this moment. They held their breaths and stared at the sky. Such a civil war between human sword bearers could be said to be unparalleled in the world. Perhaps even after a few hundred years, they would not see another civil war like this. Just when everyone thought that this battle was about to begin, Gohan, who had already held his sword in his hand, retracted it as if nothing had happened. Looking at the 7 sword immortal level bearers around him, he said with a smile, "Everyone, have you all forgotten the agreement Kenzu made with all the sword bearers 1,000 years ago? Sword bearers can never fight amongst each other. Have you all forgotten this rule?" Hearing Gohan suddenly bring up Kenzu's agreement, these sword bearers were at a loss for words, and did not know how to respond. I beg everyone to think carefully. If we start a war today, won't we be completely breaking the rule that humans have followed for the past 1,000 years? Gohan spoke in a serious tone. If you and I break this rule today, wouldn't we be setting a bad example for our future generations? Our future generations can learn from us today, killing each other for their own benefits. Wouldn't that be cutting off the future of humanity? Hearing Gohan's words, these sword bearers were even more at a loss for what to do. This was indeed the agreement between Kenzu and all the sword bearers, and it was also the rule that the sword-bearers had followed for 1,000 years. It was fine if some low-level sword-bearers fought, but if one of the 8 sword-bearers with the strongest combat power of humanity fought, the impact would be really huge. This was just like in the Middle Ages. Ever since the phrase, kings, marquises, and generals would rather have guts, was shouted in Day's village, there had been continuous peasant uprisings in Huaxia, and it had not stopped for thousands of years. Before Day's village, there had never been a peasant uprising in Huaxia. P.S. Although it is not known whether there had been a peasant uprising before Day's village in real history, at least in the records of historians. But at least in the records of historians, there had been no peasant uprising before Day's village. And the phrase, kings, marquises, and generals would rather have guts, in Day's village had indeed inspired the unwillingness of the people of Huaxia to be persecuted, and it had also contributed to the magnificent history of peasant uprisings for thousands of years in Huaxia's history. In short, once these 8 top sword-bearers started fighting today, no matter what the final outcome of the battle was, it would still destroy the covenant that Kanzu and the other sword-bearers had made for 1,000 years. Once there was the first destroyer, the future generations would have a lot less scruples. At that time, more and more sword-bearers would have internal strife, and the entire human race might go into a state of decline. Therefore, just because of this sentence from Gohan, the 7 sword-bearers who had already made up their minds to fight with Gohan became hesitant again. To be honest, they really did not want to fight with Gohan. But on second thought, tens of millions of lives were at stake, and they had to fight with Gohan. This was really a dilemma. Have you guys thought it through? If you don't say anything, I'll leave. Seeing that the scene had fallen into silence, Gohan once again took a step towards the outside of the city. We cannot fight with you, but we definitely cannot let you leave this place. The Great Sun Sword Immortal once again stood in front of Gohan, and the other 6 sword-bearers also walked towards Gohan from all directions. Finally, they surrounded Gohan in a space of less than 1 square meter. These sword-bearers were all covered in a layer of protective walls, physically blocking all avenues of escape for Gohan. Gohan understood what these sword-bearers were thinking. They did not want to break the 1,000-year rule and fight with Gohan directly, but they could not let him go either. Therefore, they could only use the tragic method that the Sky Guards of the Celestial Empire used to protect their own airspace 1,000 years ago. That was, they did not attack, did not fire cannons, and did not use missiles. Instead, they used the plane itself to force their opponent, and used the most tragic method of collision to defend their country's airspace. However, the spectators on the road did not understand the behavior of these immortal sword-rank sword-wielders. They thought that the immortal sword-rank sword-wielders would immediately fight with Gohan. They were already prepared to move their small stools to enjoy this earth-shattering battle that did not require tickets. But these sword-bearers did not fight for a long time. Instead, they used their own bodies to form a cage, trapping Gohan in the air. It looked like they were playing house. This immediately made the crowd unhappy. A portion of them began to make a ruckus on the ground, shouting at the top of their lungs, telling the sword-bearers to hurry up and capture that Gohan. Some people even cursed these sword-bearers for being cowards, for not even having the courage to fight with the people of Yuzhong City. Of course, this was only a portion of the crowd. When some of the more knowledgeable people saw this, they felt a little worried, and felt that something was wrong. But unfortunately, the greatest characteristic of a troll was that as long as they had a mouth, they could spit. And the greatest characteristic of knowledgeable people was that they knew to weigh the pros and cons. They did not want to bring trouble upon themselves, so they chose to remain silent. Why bother? Gohan could not help but sigh as he listened to the waves of curses from the ground. He looked at the sword-bearers with some disappointment, and then pulled out his immortal extinguished sword for the 3rd time. But this time Gohan was not joking. The blade of the immortal extinguished sword began to shine with sharp sword chi. This was a sign that Gohan had completely entered battle mode. Gohan, are you crazy? Seeing the sword chi on Gohan's immortal extinguished sword, the great Sun Sword Immortal's expression froze. He said furiously, "You were just talking about the rules between sword bearers. Are you going to break our rules now?" "No. I'm not going to break the rules." Gohan shook his head. "Then why are you releasing the sword chi?" "Oh, you mean that?" Gohan waved the immortal extinguished sword in his hand and smiled. "I'm just cleaning up some annoying people, that's right. In the agreement between Kenzu and all the sword bearers, it should only be that sword bearers cannot fight each other." "Gohan, what are you trying to do?" The great Sun Sword Immortal's expression changed. He suddenly had a frightening guess in his mind. "I had some pity for these people, but now it looks like I'll just let them die." Gohan smiled slightly, and the sword chi on the immortal extinguished sword burst forth in an instant. But this sword chi did not attack the sword bearers of the sword bearers of the sword bearers. Instead, it passed through all the sword bearers of the sword bearers of the sword bearers, and landed on the horses instead. The noisy crowd would never have guessed that the immortal sword wielders would be the ones to land the sword chi on their own heads instead of fighting. In the blink of an eye, the street that was originally filled with tens of thousands of people turned blood red. Countless people didn't even feel any pain before they found their limbs leaving their bodies and falling to the ground. Fresh red blood instantly covered the entire road, and the original asphalt road turned into a blood-red river in the blink of an eye. Chapter 1289. Murder! He really killed someone! After a brief silence, heart-wrenching screams of horror came from the entire avenue. Seeing the blood and severed limbs on the ground, the citizens realized that what was going on in the sky was not a show for them to eat melon seeds and entertain themselves at the same time, but a battle that could take their lives at any time. When they realized this, they started to flee. But when they were about to escape, they were even more alarmed to find that they had nowhere to run, because the entire street was packed with people, so densely packed that even a mouse couldn't step on them. It was impossible for these audience members to escape from the danger zone in a short period of time. And the crowd in the distance did not know about the battle that was happening in this area. In fact, they were constantly squeezing towards the center, wanting to see the battle in the sky more clearly. When the people inside kept on fleeing, and the people outside kept on squeezing in, a tragedy was bound to happen. The people at the intersection of the two waves of people were the first to be unlucky. They were directly pushed to the ground, and in this situation, once they fell, it meant that there was absolutely no possibility of getting back up, because countless people would instinctively and uncontrollably step over the bodies of those who fell. And some unlucky ones would even be tripped over by those who fell, becoming new carpets and new stones to trip over. All in all, in a short few seconds, a huge stampede had occurred on the street. More than a few thousand people had fallen to the ground, becoming stepping stones for others. "Gohan, you bastard! Look at what you've done!" The great Sun Sword Immortal looked at the tragic sight of the crowd, and asked Gohan in pain. "It's nothing, these people are just too stupid." Gohan laughed. "Everyone, Gohan has gone crazy. He actually attacked ordinary people. We don't need to follow the rules between sword bearers anymore, let's capture him directly," the great Sun Sword Immortal said through gritted teeth. Thanks to Gohan's crazy actions, they already had enough reasons not to follow the rules between sword bearers. Yes. The 6 immortal sword rank sword maidens accepted the order at the same time, and countless sword lights instantly struck Gohan's body. If it was an ordinary immortal sword rank sword bearer, they would probably have been hit so hard that their shields were on the verge of collapse. Chaos Sword Art, Legend of Chaos. Gohan roared angrily, and a huge power of the rule erupted from Gohan. The sword ladies of the immortal sword rank swordsmen surrounding Gohan were instantly sent flying by this thick power of the rule, turning into meteors that crashed heavily into the nearby buildings. These buildings were directly caved in. Gohan had single-handedly sent 7 sword ladies of the immortal sword rank flying. Rule force is indeed powerful. Not far away, the 6 immortal sword rank sword-bearers exclaimed in horror. They had not expected Gohan's ability to be this terrifying. Everyone, there is no need to panic. Take a look at your sword Maiden's injuries. The great Sun Sword Immortal ordered calmly. The rest of the immortal sword wielders immediately obeyed, and reported back a few seconds later. No matter. His injuries are not serious. I'm practically uninjured, and still in peak condition. As the voices of the 6 immortal sword rank sword wielders fell, the 7 immortal sword rank sword maidens that had been smashed into the building flew out again. Other than looking a little disheveled, they did not seem to have suffered much damage. Looks like I guessed right. This Gohan is only a spiritual sword rank swordsman after all. Although he has the power of the rule force, he is still a tier below us. In terms of absolute power, he is still far from us, so he cannot deal too much damage to us. Instead, look at his forehead. There is sweat already. This means that he has already expended a lot of energy. We may not be able to defeat him in a short time, but it is not difficult to hold him back. When his energy is completely exhausted, it will be time for us to capture him. The great Sun Sword Immortal said to the other immortal sword rank swordbearers. These immortal sword rank swordbearers immediately felt that this was very reasonable. After all, this Gohan did not have the ability to travel through the void. As long as they could keep him in Yanjing City, victory would be theirs. But what happened next completely exceeded the expectations of these immortal sword rank swordbearers. When those sword ladies were smashed into the buildings, Gohan, who was flying in the air, actually flung out another 10 sword chi. But these sword chi did not pursue the immortal sword rank sword ladies. Instead, they continued to attack the innocent mortals on the street. In an instant, the mortals who were scrambling to escape for their lives suffered heavy casualties. Bright red blood sprayed into the sky, dyeing the entire world red. Yanjing City was filled with cries of anguish. Gohan, you beast, you have really gone mad. These are all innocent humans. Seeing this, the great Sun Sword Immortal, who had just been thinking that he could quickly capture Gohan, was instantly enraged. He wanted to eat Gohan alive. Great Sun Sword Immortal, I can't be bothered to talk to you. Get these immortal sword rank swordbearers and their sword ladies to stay where they are. Otherwise, even if I am captured by you, at least 10 million people in Yanjing City will die with me. Gohan roared. Shameless! You scum! Beast! Hearing Gohan's words, the great Sun Sword Immortal was about to explode. You dare to use the lives of humans to threaten us? Do you still have the right to be a human? You bastard beasts, you! The great Sun Sword Immortal's vocabulary was a little lacking. He could not use words that were closer to the truth to express the anger in his heart. He could only keep repeating things like bastard and beast. Ha 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 ha! Hearing the great Sun Sword Immortal's words, Gohan suddenly started to laugh. And he laughed very happily. He laughed so hard that tears flowed from the corners of his eyes. That Zhou Yu used the lives of tens of millions of people to threaten you, and you wanted to take my life. Now I am using the lives of tens of millions of people to protect my own life. Is there anything wrong with that? That Zhou Yu is Yuan Ko, a beast. Are you going to learn from Yuan Ko and act like a beast? The great Sun Sword Immortal retorted without hesitation. Ha 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 ha. So in order to satisfy a Yuan Ko's request, you are going to kill a future Emperor Sword Wielder, the pillar of humanity? Gohan laughed even louder. In order to satisfy Yuan Ko's desires, you are going to kill your own people. It seems like in your eyes, humans are not even worth a Yuan Ko. You are the real Yuan Ko. We. The great Sun Sword Immortal choked. In a short period of time, he could not even retort. There's no need to continue this nonsense. Gohan waved his hand. Great Sun Sword Immortal, you only have 2 choices now. 1. To save the tens of millions of lives in the game, and abandon these lives in front of you. 2. Let me go and let these guys live. When I attacked just now, I held back a little bit of my sword chi. I only cut off their limbs, but not their hearts. In their current state, if you can feed them a nanomachine capsule within an hour, their lives will be saved. But if you and I fight here, the sword chi will not be so easy to control. Everyone here will be turned into minced meat. Chairman, what should we do? Chairman, hurry up and make a decision. When the other immortal sword wielders heard Gohan's threat, none of them dared to continue attacking. Their sword maidens only surrounded Gohan again, but they still maintained a certain distance. They did not dare to attack Gohan again, afraid that they would anger Gohan and kill these struggling humans. You ask me, but who do I ask? The great Sun Sword Immortal was extremely frustrated. All the pressure and decisions were now concentrated on him. If he made a wrong decision, it would be the lives of tens of millions of people. What? Great Sun Sword Immortal, you still haven't given me an answer? Gohan laughed coldly. In a voice so low that everyone present could hear, he urged, I'll only give you 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, if you have not made a decision, I will send out a wave of sword chi. As for which unlucky people will die under my sword chi, I invite you to guess, Great Sun Sword Immortal. You. Hearing this, the Great Sun Sword Immortal really wanted to vomit blood. As for the citizens, they were scared out of their wits. Regardless of whether they were in perfect health or those who had lost an arm or a leg, they all stopped running. Then for the 3rd time, they knelt on the ground in unison and began to beg for others to save them. But this time, the person they were begging was not Gohan, but the Great Sun Sword Immortal. Chairman, let him go. We are innocent. Chairman, I'm about to die, hurry and save me. Don't care about him, let's not care about that, Gohan. Saving us is more important. And so, these citizens who had been begging Gohan to stay in exchange for the lives of their loved ones all changed their mind. They begged the Great Sun Sword Immortal to quickly let Gohan go, so that they would not continue to suffer. What was worth mentioning was that this time, these citizens had learned their lesson. The hot-tempered among them did not dare to say anything more, such as how the Great Sun Sword Immortal was an idiot and did not want to save them. Instead, they lowered their heads and begged, afraid that they would anger the Great Sun Sword Immortal like how they had angered Gohan. If that happened, no one would be able to save them. Good move. Respect. Respect. After struggling for a minute, the Great Sun Sword Immortal finally put down his hands weakly. His eyes were filled with despair as he waved his hands weakly. Go. Go. Many thanks. Gohan smiled coldly and flew out of the city. This time, no one dared to stop Gohan. 10 minutes later, Gohan had completely disappeared into the wilderness. There was no trace of him. Chapter 1290. Save them. The moment Gohan left, the Great Sun Sword Immortal led everyone to save the injured humans. After a few hours of work, they finally cleaned up the ground. After experiencing such a heart-wrenching, or perhaps insane, event, the people of Yanjing City no longer dared to appear on the street. They all obediently retreated into their homes. The entire street instantly became extremely quiet, like a ghost town. What are the casualties today? Returning to the conference room of the Sword Committee, the Great Sun Sword Immortal and all the immortal sword wielders sat together and began to discuss. Reporting, Chairman, there are a total of 108,621 casualties, of which 54,231 have minor injuries, 36,433 have moderate injuries, 16,258 have serious injuries, and 1,699 have died, a staff member in charge of statistics reported. Sigh. This Gohan actually killed almost 1,700 people. This inhumane bastard. The Great Sun Sword Immortal slammed his palm on the table angrily, smashing a newly replaced table into pieces. The other immortal sword-wielders around him also had expressions of righteous indignation, as if they wanted to cut Gohan into 1,000 pieces. Chairman, the situation might be a little different from what you imagined, the staff member said awkwardly. What's different from what I imagined? The Great Sun Sword Immortal asked curiously. Chairman, you'll understand after reading this document. The staff member handed the document to the Great Sun Sword Immortal. The Great Sun Sword Immortal only took one look, and his eyes popped out, his expression one of extreme disbelief. How could this be? The Great Sun Sword Immortal sat on the ground weakly. Chairman, what on earth happened? Seeing the Great Sun Sword Immortal's strange reaction, the other sword-wielders could not help but ask curiously. All of you, take a look at this document. The Great Sun Sword Immortal handed the document to the other immortal sword-wielders and passed it around. In the end, everyone's expression was the same as the Great Sun Sword Immortal's, an expression of extreme disbelief. Chairman, could there be something fishy here? The quick-witted Cold-Water Sword Immortal asked. It's not that there won't be anything fishy, there will definitely be something fishy. The Great Sun Sword Immortal sighed and rolled his eyes. He immediately jumped up from his seat and shouted, "Meeting adjourned. Today's meeting is adjourned. I still have something important to do." Mr. Xian. This was the casualty report for the day. Tens of thousands of people had died at the hands of that bastard. It seemed like he was determined not to sacrifice himself for humanity. What should we do now? How can we save those tens of millions of lives? Great Sun Sword Immortal asked Xian helplessly in the core control room of the research facility. Sigh. It was time and luck. What can I do? Let's see what Zhou Yu has to say. Xian helplessly threw the report in his hand on the table, then shouted to the air in the control room, "Governor Zhou, come out. I know the movements outside can't be hidden from you. Now that things have become like this, why don't you come out and discuss with us?" As expected of Xian. How do you know I know everything that's happening outside? As expected, Zhou Yu's figure automatically appeared in the control room as soon as Xian's voice fell. What's so strange about that? You are Zhou Yu. If you didn't arrange everything properly, you wouldn't have gone all out. Just like how you hacked into our TV system and planted a video that was prepared in advance. I'm guessing you also set up a trap in our various network systems. Even if we cut off the external network of the biological brain, you still have a way to know what's happening in Yanjing. So I'm guessing you know everything that's happening outside. Then you must know why we're here. Xian said calmly. Smart. You and that Gohan are both smart people. Zhou Yu exclaimed in admiration. His Majesty the Sovereign of the Sea really exceeded my expectations. I thought he was just an ordinary person with some luck, at most a Chow Chow, bound by the world's benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and trust. He would listen to me for the sake of millions of lives. Now it seems I was wrong. He's not Chow Chow, but Lu de Air through and through. Oh, I thought you'd say Gohan was Chow Chow. How did he become Liu Bei? Didn't Liu Bei establish his country with benevolence, righteousness, propriety, and wisdom? Didn't he have the perfect time, place, and people? Didn't he follow the morals and morals the most? How could Gohan be Liu Bei? Xian smiled. That's just on the surface. Chow Chow looks like he's a lot. He even said he'd rather betray the world than let the world betray him. But in reality, he's still a fool bound by traditional morals. The throne is already within his reach, yet he refuses to proclaim himself emperor. What a joke! Zhou Yu said disdainfully. As for that Liu Bei, his mouth is full of morals and morals. But no matter where he goes or who he defers to, he'll betray his master in the end, causing his original master to die. The most unfortunate ones are Lu Jiu and my master. The most unfortunate ones are Lu Jiu and my lord. They agreed to send troops to help Lu Jiu pacify Hanzhong, but in the end they swallowed the whole of Ezhou. They agreed to return Jingzhou to Jiangdong after conquering Izhou, but in the end, they dominated Jingzhou and refused to let it go. In the end, they even killed his trusted subordinate, Guan Yu. Such a person is a real treacherous hero, a treacherous hero who doesn't care about benevolence, righteousness, and morality. Unfortunately, he was a little too arrogant in the end. He actually tried to swallow up Jiangdong first and ruined his 1,000-year empire. If it weren't for that bastard Zhuge Kongming who prolonged his life, his Shu Han would have long been gone. Zhou Yu explained the nature of the three kingdoms in a few sentences. It was a pity that no one present except Xian truly understood the three kingdoms. Otherwise, they would have found all the flaws in Zhou Yu's words. Fine. Let's not talk about this nonsense. Since Governor Zhou already knows the situation, then I won't repeat it. Let's change the plan. You can't count on His Majesty Poseidon, Xian said. Is that so? Is it impossible if I insist on taking Gahan's body? Zhou Yu's expression changed as he said gloomily. Then there's no other way. You've seen Gahan's capabilities. Even Jiandi can't capture him in the wild. Xian shrugged. You doesn't care. You wants his body. Zhou Yu replied stubbornly. If you don't hand over Gahan today, then I'll kill 1,000,000 souls, and another 1,000,000 tomorrow, until we all perish together. All right then. Kill him then. Why don't you kill him now? Motherf *Ker, if you have the guts then kill me. Even if I have to give up the souls of these tens of millions of people, I will chop this stupid brain into pieces. The great Sun Sword Immortal could no longer endure such negotiations. The great Sun Sword Immortal's worries for the lives of tens of millions of people, as well as the grievances he had suffered at Gu Han's hands, were all unleashed at this moment. He waved the immortal sword in his hand like a madman, aiming the blade at the brain of the living being in the center of the room. Silver snake-like sword chi pulsed continuously, clearly ready to strike. Motherfucker, I'm telling you, if you dare harm even one of my souls, I'll destroy your brain and we'll all go our separate ways. The great Sun Sword Immortal's declaration of mutual destruction frightened everyone. The entire room fell silent. No one, including Zhou Yu and Chu Xian, dared to say a word. What's the point? You was just joking. In the end, Zhou Yu gave in. He smiled awkwardly and said, Of course I know how powerful His Majesty is. I also know that he might do something unexpected, so I already have a backup plan, or rather, a target. If you had a backup plan, just say so. There's no need to be so angry. Xian immediately walked to the great Sun Sword Immortal's side after hearing Zhou Yu's words. He pacified the enraged great Sun Sword Immortal and put away the sword lady in his hand. He let out a long sigh. Governor Zhou, please tell me what the plan is. It's simple. Since Poseidon's body won't do, then give me someone else's body. Her body is barely up to my standards. Zhou Yu replied. Whose body do you want? When the great Sun Sword Immortal heard this, he immediately walked to the side of Zhou Yu's projection and scolded, I think you shouldn't have any designs on others. Just take my body. I'll give my body to you. Zhou Yu shook his head. Great Sun Sword Immortal's righteousness is something I admire. But to put it bluntly, great Sun Sword Immortal, this is all you can do for the rest of your life. Ascending to the throne is impossible. So I don't want your body. So you want the body of a sword-bearer that can ascend to the throne. The great Sun Sword Immortal was stunned as he said in a daze, but in this world, other than that Gu Han, who can guarantee that they can ascend to the throne? No. There's one more, there's another one who is guaranteed to ascend to the throne. Xian replied immediately after the great Sun Sword Immortal finished speaking. You mean? The great Sun Sword Immortal finally reacted. There was indeed a second sword-bearer that could ascend to the throne. But it's too late now. That woman has probably already run off with her master. The great Sun Sword Immortal sat down helplessly. His second target was naturally Lu Shihua. In this world, only Lu Shihua had a 95% chance of becoming an emperor sword bearer. But Gohan and them had caused such a ruckus just now. Lu Shihua could naturally tell that something was wrong. He had most likely escaped from Yanjing City. No. Great Sun Sword Immortal, look, who's that? Xian clapped his hands with a faint smile. A secret door opened, and the struggling Lu Shihua was escorted by an immortal sword bearer to the Great Sun Sword Immortal and Zhou. Chapter 1291. Lu Shihua was wearing a rare white dress today. Her fluffy long hair accentuated her beauty. Unfortunately, this beauty was wasted today. Lu Shihua glared at Xian and Sword Immortal Great Sun angrily, as if she wanted to eat them alive. I'm sorry, Pavilion Master Lu Shihua, this is for the lives of millions of people, including the lives of over 10 million people in Yuzhong City. We have no choice but to do this, Sword Immortal Great Sun said shamefully. Humph. Lu Shihua snorted and didn't say anything else. Lu Shihua knew that no matter what he said now, it would be useless. It looked like the Great Sun Sword Immortal was determined to use his life to exchange for the lives of tens of millions of people. Governor Zhou, we've brought the person you wanted. Tell us, what do you want to do next? Sword Immortal Great Sun said impatiently. There's no rush. I need to verify her identity first. Zhou smiled. Give me the control of the DNA detector in the research lab. I need to verify her DNA first. If you give me a fake Lu Shihua, it'll be a huge loss for me. Cunning. The Great Sun Sword Immortal harumphed coldly, but he had no choice but to agree to the other party's request. He allowed the other party to take control of the detector, and at the same time, he placed Lu Shihua into the detector, allowing the other party to conduct the DNA test. That's right. It's Lu Shihua's DNA data. Zhou laughed out loud. However, on second thought, he said, no, you guys still have to get her to release her sword mistress. That's to prove that this is her real body and not a fake one cloned from DNA. Troublesome. Xian frowned, but he had no choice but to comply with Zhou's request. He whispered a few words into Lu Shihua's ear. Lu Shihua glared at Sword Immortal Chu Xian angrily, but still obediently demonstrated the process of releasing and returning the Sword Maiden. The angel with 8 wings proved that she was the real Lu Shihua. Now, there were no more problems with Lu Shihua's identity. Zhou was very satisfied with this result. He quickly said, connect me to the internet and put on the gaming helmet. That's enough. Let's do as Zhou says. The Great Sun Sword Immortal ordered. Immediately, someone tied Lu Shihua to a chair and placed the gaming helmet on his head. Then, Lu Shihua's mind went into a trance and he entered the game. Alright, Governor Zhou, this body is yours. You can come in, the Great Sun Sword Immortal said with a livid face. Thank you, the Great Sun Sword Immortal. We will be comrades in arms from now on. Zhou laughed heartily and the projection disappeared in an instant. Following that, the brain of the creature that was originally still and uncomprehending began to tremble violently. The researcher who was monitoring the situation and data of the entire creature's brain said excitedly, a large amount of strange data that cannot be compiled is moving through the network. Take off Lu Shihua's helmet right now. The Great Sun Sword Immortal's expression changed, and he immediately gave the order. Hence, someone immediately took off the helmet, and Lu Shihua forcibly broke free from the game. Great Sun Sword Immortal, what are you doing? Have you forgotten our promise? More than a minute later, a furious Zhou appeared through the projection. He questioned the Great Sun Sword Immortal with a crazed expression. I haven't forgotten. It's just that I don't trust you. The Great Sun Sword Immortal snorted coldly. How do I know that you won't destroy all the souls in the creature's brain after obtaining Lu Shihua's body? You must first release half of the souls in the creature's brain before I can hand Lu Shihua's body over to you. There's no need to worry. Zhou Yu said in a clear voice. As long as I enter Lu Shihua's body, my life will be in your hands. If I still dare to not let these human souls go, you can kill me. At that time, I'll really be dead. Governor Zhou, we are all smart people. There's no need to play games. This is just your side of the story. Xian waved his hand. You keep saying that you want to join us humans, but how do I know that you are sincere? After all, we humans did wrong you in the beginning, inflicting unimaginable torture and humiliation on you. I feel that your desire to destroy the entire human race is much greater than your desire to join us. If I were you, I would make the same request as you. However, when I obtain Lu Shihua's body, I will destroy all the human souls in one go. As for whether the humans will kill Lu Shihua's body, I don't care. This way, not only will humanity lose tens of millions of souls, they will also lose a swordsman who can ascend to the throne. Not to mention that Lu Shihua has a master like Gu Han. He will definitely not let go of the person who harmed his disciple. Who knows, there might be a large-scale civil war between the human swordsmen. This kind of revenge is the cruelest revenge to the human race. At that time, the entire human race might be destroyed by my own schemes. Even if I really die, it will be a worthy death. Destroying the human race with one's own strength. Isn't this glory and merit even more glorious than defeating Zhuge Kongming? After all, Zhuge Kongming fought for 1,000 years and never destroyed us humans. To be able to do what Zhuge Kongming couldn't do, this is probably the best way for you to defeat Zhuge Kongming. You. Zhou Yu's face stiffened. Xian had obviously hit the nail on Zhou Yu's head. To Zhou Yu, destroying the tens of millions of souls in the brain after obtaining Lu Shihua's body was indeed the best way for Zhou Yu to take revenge. Ha ha! Chu Xian, you are indeed amazing. I thought I could deceive the world, but you still saw through me. Zhou Yu's expression returned to normal after the stiffening. He then laughed loudly. That's right, this is my plan. I didn't expect you to find out in the end. If so, then let these tens of millions of human souls be buried with Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu can be considered to have avenged the hundreds of years of hatred. Wait! Xian stood in front of Zhou Yu and stopped him. You only control tens of millions of human souls in the brain. Even if you kill all these souls, it's just a few strands of hair to us humans. As long as we use advanced biotechnology, tens of millions of human souls can be recovered in 10 years. This won't hurt us humans, do you understand? Humph. Don't try to trick me, Xian. These tens of millions of human souls may not be important to you, but don't forget, there are over 10,000 swordsman souls trapped in the game. There's even the soul of a sword saint-level swordsman. If these swordsman souls die, it'll be enough to hurt you humans. Zhou Yu said through gritted teeth. It's just 10,000 swordsman souls. We humans have over 200,000 swordsman souls. Losing 10,000 isn't a big deal. As for that divine sword-tier sword wielder, he is already 76 years old this year. He can fight for another 10 years at most. If such a divine sword-tier sword wielder dies, then so be it. We humans can bear the loss. At most, the next few years will be tough, but as long as we wait for another 10 years, we humans will be able to recover completely. Your mutual destruction is just another 10 years for us humans to hide in the Bay City. Don't you think you're being too arrogant if you think you can destroy us humans like this? You. Zhou Yu's expression changed again. He didn't think his pair of trump cards would become 1 against 3 with just a few words from Xian. It was as if killing millions of people wasn't a big deal at all. But Zhou Yu was Zhou Yu. After a brief moment of confusion, he quickly calmed down. His expression changed a few times before he finally calmed down. He sneered, I was almost fooled by you. If you humans really don't care about the souls in the brain, then why did you have to fall out with Gohan? Why did you have to help me capture Lu Shihua? Don't you know this means completely falling out with the strongest person in the future, Poseidon? Aren't you afraid that Gohan will take revenge on Yanjing City after he becomes the emperor? When that time comes, Yanjing City will really be finished. No one in Yanjing City is a match for Gohan. The dimensional barrier you used to defend against Yuan Ko will be completely useless against a human like Gohan. All of you will die under Gohan's sword, Zhou Yu said crazily. It was as if he could already see the scene of Gohan slaughtering the entire Yanjing City. Sigh. We didn't understand this from the start. We only understood it after Gohan left. Xian and Great Sun Sword Immortal said bitterly. At that time we were too worried about the lives of tens of millions of people. We didn't carefully evaluate whether the lives of tens of millions of people were worth the life of Poseidon. We didn't expect Gohan's temper to be so violent. Not only did none of the tens of millions of people on the streets submit to Gohan, they instead ignited his anger, resulting in the current situation. Now that I think about it, the three of us should sit down and have a good talk. Two heads are better than one. If the three of us had a good talk, I'm afraid we would have exposed your true colors long ago, and we wouldn't have fallen into such an embarrassing situation, Xian said with a sigh. As soon as Xian finished, everyone including Great Sun Sword Immortal was filled with unwillingness and regret. They regretted that Yanjing City had fallen out with Gohan so rashly. Indeed, if both sides had calmed down and had a good talk, the ending would have been completely different. If that's the case, why did you still capture Lu Shihua? Wouldn't that ruin your relationship with Gohan even more? Zhou Yu retorted. Even if we didn't capture Lu Shihua, it wouldn't help. Gohan and Yanjing City are already enemies. No one can change that. If Lu Shihua returns to Gohan's side, Gohan will have the power of 2 Emperor Sword-level sword-bearers. Yanjing City will probably be suppressed by Gohan forever. We won't be able to live either. Instead of that, why don't we turn Gohan's 2 Emperor Sword-level sword-bearers into 1 Emperor Sword-level sword-bearers each? That's the only chance of survival for Yanjing City. Xian said seriously. Chapter 1292. I understand what you mean. You want me to take over Lu Shihua's body, right? Zhou Yu finally understood what Xian meant. Only an Emperor Sword wielder could defend against Gohan's revenge in the future. And at this time, although Yanjing City had 9 immortal sword-level sword wielders, there was not a single one of them that could be molded. Once Dao Haotian's Sword Emperor passed away, Yanjing City would definitely face the bitter revenge of Gohan. Based on Gohan's attitude of not caring about the lives of ordinary people and casually going on a killing spree, when the time came, there would probably be a large number of deaths in Yanjing City, and these immortal sword wielders who had surrounded him that day would not be able to get away with it. Hence, in the future, Yanjing City would need an Emperor Sword-level sword wielder to be able to fight against Gohan and protect the lives of the sword wielders in Yanjing City. The one who had the highest chance of becoming an Emperor Sword wielder was Gohan's disciple Lu Shihua. Lu Shihua was Yanjing City's trump card to protect itself in the future. But the problem was that Lu Shihua and Gohan were very close. They were like father and daughter. Lu Shihua was also a very determined person. She would never betray Gohan. At this point, everything was very clear. Just like what Zhou Yu had said, the situation had been completely reversed. Previously, it was Zhou Yu who wanted to take over Lu Shihua's body. Now it was Yanjing City who wanted Zhou Yu to take over Lu Shihua's body. Only then could they borrow Lu Shihua's power to protect them. Ha 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 ha. No wonder you captured Lu Shihua immediately. You've been planning on taking over Lu Shihua all along. Zhou Yu laughed out loud. The Great Sun Sword Immortal and the humans around him looked ashamed. Only Xian was calm and composed. He didn't look ashamed at all, because this was all within his calculations. Ridiculous! What a joke! Now it's you humans who want Zhou Yu to take over Lu Shihua's body. I've never seen something so funny in my life. Zhou Yu laughed so hard his stomach hurt, if he had a stomach. Laozi said that heaven and earth are heartless and treat all living things as dogs. In my opinion, this human is heartless and treats humans as dogs. This is the nature of humans. Even after thousands of years have passed, we still can't change it. We still can't forget to scheme and kill each other. These humans are really laughable. They should have gone extinct long ago. Ha 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 ha. Done laughing? Xian waited for Zhou Yu to calm down before continuing. You have two paths in front of you. Either you destroy all the souls in the brain, and we destroy the brain, then ask Miss Ling to be the mediator and bring Lu Shihua to apologize to Gohan. If necessary, we'll pay with our lives. This way we can exchange for Yanjing's future peace. Why don't you release the tens of millions of human souls right now, and I'll give Lu Shihua's body to you. Then, you'll sincerely become our comrade and the human's sword wielder. In the future, we'll surround and kill Gohan in the name of Gohan slaughtering innocent people. We'll work together to kill Gohan and bring peace to the world. These two paths are in front of you. Which one to choose is up to you, Xian said calmly. Zhou Yu fell silent. His heart was in a mess. If he chose the first option, humanity would definitely suffer some damage for a while. However, as long as Gohan could reconcile with Yanjing City, humanity would only need to rest and recuperate for 10 years. Then, he, Zhou Yu, would only need to wait for 10 years before he could take his revenge. If he chose the second path, he could make use of these immortal sword-tier sword-bearers' desire to live to temporarily feign civility with the humans and join the humans first. Although the humans would definitely not believe him, the humans still needed his strength to fight against the solid cold. If he played his cards right, he might be able to cause even greater losses to the humans in the future. Perhaps even the extinction of the human race was not a certainty. Of course, the most important thing was that Zhou Yu did not want to die. He wanted to continue living. After careful consideration, Zhou Yu finally gave his answer. I can help you deal with Gohan. Very good. A wise choice. Then, do as I said and release all the human souls, Xian said calmly. It's impossible to release all of them. We're not idiots. Why make such a meaningless request? Zhou Yu smiled. Alright. You can use the souls of all Yuzhong citizens as your bargaining chip. After you fuse with Lu Shihua's body, you can release the souls of Yuzhong citizens, Xian said. No. Zhou Yu shook his head. Don't try to play tricks with me. Gohan is from Yuzhong City. Your Yanjing City and Yuzhong City have long been at loggerhead. Deep down, you might be hoping that I'll kill all the souls of Yuzhong City's people. Such a hostage is not reliable. Then what do you say? Xian asked with a frown. How about this? I'll release the souls of Yanjing citizens first. After I fuse with Xian, I'll release the souls of the remaining humans. This is the fairest and safest plan, Zhou Yu replied. Alright. It's decided. Xian did not bargain further and nodded in agreement. Great. Zhou Yu will fulfill his promise now. After Zhou Yu said that, the creature's brain vibrated again. The monitoring room saw countless data being transmitted rapidly through the network. Soon, it returned to the body of its original owner. They're revived. Sir. Some of the unconscious players have woken up. Sir. All the life signals are waking up. Sir. The sword-bearers have woken up. Reports from all over Yanjing arrived in the control room. The players who were trapped in the game had woken up one by one. In a short 5 minutes, almost all the players had woken up and returned to their normal lives. How is it? Is my gift enough? Zhou Yu asked with a smile. It's time for you to fulfill your promise. Alright. Xian nodded and ordered, put the helmet back on Lu Shihua. The gaming helmet reappeared on Lu Shihua's head, but it wasn't removed this time. After a series of data transmissions, Lu Shihua's helmet suddenly released a cloud of black smoke. Xian ordered his men to take off Lu Shihua's helmet, and saw Lu Shihua's clear eyes. Are you Lu Shihua or Zhou Yu? Xian asked, looking at the pair of eyes. I'm Zhou. I finally have a normal human body, Zhou said excitedly. However, his voice trembled violently as he spoke. It was like a motorcycle that was starting up. It was not a voice that a normal person would make. Why is my voice like this? Only then did Zhou realize that his voice was extremely abnormal. At the same time, when he tried to move his arms and legs, he suddenly felt a sense of helplessness, as if his limbs were not his own. Why can't I control this body? Zhou asked in confusion. What's so strange about that? Your soul has just taken over this body. It's like a newbie taking over a new car. You have to experience it for a while before you can use it as you please. Xian sneered. That's right. I see. Zhou nodded, accepting Xian's explanation. Very good. Since you've achieved your goal, let's follow our agreement and release the remaining humans. Xian said. There's no rush. Zhou smiled. I promised you that I would completely fuse with this body. So before I can control Lu Shihua's sword mistress, I will not release the remaining human souls. Are you trying to violate our agreement? Xian's expression changed as he questioned angrily. So what if I'm going against our agreement? Zhou. Lu Shihua sneered. To tell you the truth, I've left 1/4 of my soul in the creature's brain. Now the creature's brain is still under my control. The rest of the souls are all my trump cards. Before I kill Zhuge Kongming and Guhan, these souls will stay in the creature's brain. I don't believe your bullshit about being willing to fight alongside me. I can only guarantee my safety if I have something in my hands. Zhou burst into laughter. Is that so? Do you really think that your soul is in a safe body? Xian didn't show any anger after hearing Zhou's words. Instead, he revealed a strange smile and put a brand new gaming helmet on Zhou's head. Zhou's instincts told him that something was not right. At that moment, he felt an intense pain in his soul. A strange power suddenly came from Lu Shihua's brain. The power was so strong that it shattered Zhou's soul into pieces in an instant. The power then flowed through the gaming helmet and into the biological computer, wiping out Zhou's soul that was left in the biological computer. Finally, a tiny dimensional vortex appeared in the research room. It only lasted for a few seconds before it dissipated. However, this meant that Zhou was completely dead. Hurry up and cut off Lu Yin's head. It'll be too late. Xian said hurriedly. A few doctors rushed in and cut off Lu Shihua's head. At the same time, 2 medical pods were pushed in. The severed head and body were placed in 2 different medical pods. The whole process took less than a minute. Oh my God! Gohan is a madman. I can't believe he came up with such a plan. Xian was sweating profusely after seeing everything was done. It was as if he was fished out of the sea. At the same time, a void gate opened, and a man and a woman walked out of the void gate. Chapter 1293. Thank you all for your hard work. Gohan stepped out of the void gate with Liu Yanling. Gohan was able to enter the void gate because of Liu Yanling's help. That was why Gohan had been hiding in the void nearby. No wonder Liu Yanling had been missing for so long on such an important occasion. It's fine. We didn't have any hard work to speak of. We were just afraid that Zhou would notice our flaws and fail. The Great Sun Sword Immortal smiled bitterly. That's true. I didn't expect you two to be so good at acting. You even managed to trick Zhou. Gohan laughed. Our acting is secondary. The key is your acting, Gohan. If you hadn't tricked Zhou and made him believe that you had a falling out with Yanjing City because you weren't willing to sacrifice yourself, and even went on a killing spree in Yanjing City, Zhou wouldn't have believed us so easily. The Great Sun Sword Immortal sighed. No. Great Sun Sword Immortal, you're wrong. Gohan shook his head. I wasn't acting. I would never sacrifice myself. I was just showing my true self. In fact, I didn't come up with this plan from the very beginning. I only came up with it when I swung my sword at those pitiful citizens. Before that, everything was my true self. There was no possibility of it being an act," Gohan said calmly. The entire place was silent after Gohan finished. After a few minutes, the great Sun Sword Immortal looked at Xian in disbelief, questioning him with his eyes. "That's right. This plan was indeed proposed by Gohan after he left Yanjing City, and both of us came up with it." Xian nodded. "Before Gohan started his killing spree, I was also kept in the dark. I thought Gohan was really killing to vent his anger. That's why. You didn't do all this for Zhou to see. You really want to kill. That's tens of thousands of lives we're talking about." Great Sun Sword Immortal's face turned purple. When Gohan escaped from Yanjing and Xian came to him with Gohan's plan, Great Sun Sword Immortal thought Gohan had to kill to gain Zhou trust. But the Great Sun Sword Immortal had never expected that this was not Gohan's plan, but Gohan's personal rage. If this was really the case, then the Gohan standing before the Great Sun Sword Immortal right now was not some hero who had saved Yanjing City, but a blatant murderer, an executioner who had no regard for human life. At the thought of this, the Great Sun Sword Immortal could not help but clench his fists. He wanted to beat up Gohan immediately. "Enough!" Xian shouted at the Great Sun Sword Immortal to stop. Gohan was just saying it out of anger. He never started a killing spree. Think about those who lost limbs but didn't die. If not for Gohan avoiding their vitals, they would have died long ago. No matter how advanced our medical technology is, we wouldn't be able to save them. But he still killed thousands. Great Sun Sword Immortal said angrily. "Sigh. Look at this." Xian sighed. All the projectors in the control room projected countless images at the same time. At the same time, countless sounds rang out. "Gohan, you bastard! Why didn't you save us? Gohan, you can save tens of thousands of lives with one life. You've earned big. Hurry and kill yourself to save them. Kill this woman, it's all because she refused to give up her life. TSK. How can our Yanjing City's sword bearers be so trashy? They can't even beat a spirit sword bearer." The Great Sun Sword Immortal's face was ashen as he looked at these images. The main characters in these images all spouted malicious words. They were bastards who took the sacrifices of others for granted. If the Great Sun Sword Immortal met such people, he would want nothing more than to kill them with one sword strike. I restarted the bat system to retrieve the recordings of the victims before they died. All of them were scumbags with cheap mouths and thoughts. It's natural for Gohan to kill these ungrateful bastards. Xian concluded. I've already checked. The 1699 people who died in Gohan's hands were all bastards like this. Not a single one died in vain. Actually, I believe that Gohan didn't want to kill these people either. But if not a single one of them died, Zhou, you would never believe that Gohan really broke ties with Yanjing City. So Gohan needed some people to sacrifice to his sword, and these scumbags were perfect. Their deaths weren't without value. At least tens of millions of lives were saved. Great Sun Sword Immortal, there's nothing for you to be angry about. Xian concluded. What? The Great Sun Sword Immortal took a few steps back in fright. He looked at Gohan in a daze. He never thought that Gohan would be this terrifying. There were hundreds of thousands of people on the street, but Gohan was actually able to remember a few thousand people who had insulted him. He was even able to control his own sword chi and kill those bastards with 100% accuracy. Just what kind of terrifying ability was needed to achieve such a feat? Humph! Gohan snorted coldly. All right, if the Great Sun Sword Immortal is dissatisfied with me and wants to avenge these people, then you can come and kill me. I, Gohan, will accompany you anytime. Your Majesty, please calm down. It's my fault. The Great Sun Sword Immortal lowered his head in shame, his face full of admiration and guilt. This time, Your Majesty the Sea King saved our Yanjing city. No, this time, Your Majesty the Sea King saved 8 human base cities. This is all thanks to Your Majesty. Yanjing City will never forget this for the rest of our lives. The truth became clear at this point in the conversation. Gohan had thought of a way to deal with Zhou Yu when he was fighting the sword immortals of Yanjing City. So after escaping Yanjing City, he immediately found Liu Ling and found Xian with her help. Finally, the two of them discussed a way to deal with Zhou Yu before telling the Great Sun Sword Immortal the truth. Then there was the good show of the first 2 chapters. All of this was within Gohan's plan. No need to thank me, Great Sun Sword Immortal. This time, the most important credit is not mine. Gohan let out a long sigh. He looked at Lu Yin and Lu Shihua, who were recovering in the medical cabin, and sighed. This is all thanks to the sacrifice of my disciple and brother. If it wasn't for them, I really don't know how to deal with Zhou Yu. Yes. Hearing Gohan's words, Xian and the Great Sun Sword Immortal both sighed. This was the main credit of Lu Shihua and Lu Yin. Your Majesty, actually, there's one thing I don't understand. Why are you so sure that when Zhou Yu's soul entered Lu Yin's brain, he would definitely die in Lu Yin's brain? How can you be so sure? The Great Sun Sword Immortal asked curiously. This is what happened on the day of my ascension, Gohan said calmly. That day, Shihua came to find me in a hurry. She said that her brother was acting very strangely, as if he had a big mental problem. I used the power of the rule of the sword Qi to examine his soul. I found that there was a power of the rule hidden in Lu Yin's soul. This power of the rule had already fused with Lu Yin's soul. The two coexisted as one. If either one was missing, it would cause the other to crazily attack. At that time, I tried to use my own power of the rule to separate the two. In the end, the power of the rule hidden in Lu Yin's soul backfired and I lost a lot of power. So when I found out that Zhou Yu was trying to take over the soul of a sword bearer with the potential to ascend to the throne, I thought of Lu Yin. If I could find a way to lead Zhou Yu's soul into Lu Yin's brain, then Lu Yin might be able to use the power of the rule in Lu Yin's brain to directly kill Zhou Yu's soul. After all, Zhou Yu is only a universe rank Yuan Ko. He has not yet grasped the power of the rule. Against the power of the rule, Zhou Yu's soul will definitely not be able to resist. He will be directly killed by the power of the rule in Lu Yin's soul. At first, I was a little worried that the power of the rule would not be able to completely wipe out Zhou Yu's soul. Now it seems that these worries were unnecessary. The attack of the power of the rule is to defeat the opponent in terms of the rules. So no matter how many parts the opponent's soul is split into, no matter where it is hidden, it will be wiped out by the power of the rule. Therefore, even if Zhou Yu left 1/3 of his soul in the creature's brain, it would still be instantly erased by the power of the rule. Therefore, we don't have to worry about Zhou Yu erasing the remaining souls stored in the creature's brain. When Gohan finished speaking, he looked at Shihua in the medical pod again. His face showed a hint of guilt. But I pity my disciple. In order to make Zhou Yu believe that he entered my disciple's body, I had to cut off her and her brother's heads and swap their bodies. Fortunately, they are siblings, so there won't be too strong of a rejection between the head and the body. We can use a large amount of medicine to suppress the rejection after the bodies are merged. Otherwise, with Zhou Yu's cunning, everything would have been exposed during the DNA test. At this point, everything came to light. Because only Lu Yin's soul could kill Zhou Yu had to enter Lu Yin's body. But Lu Yin wasn't even a sword bearer. Zhou Yu wouldn't take the initiative to enter Lu Yin's body. Only Lu Shihua, who had already synchronized the 4 angel swords and would ascend to the throne, was Zhou Yu's target. So the problem Gohan and Xian had to solve was how to make Zhou Yu believe that Lu Yin was Lu Shihua. Chapter 1294. In the beginning, Xian's idea was simple. Lu Yin and Lu Shihua were siblings. They looked very similar. They didn't even need plastic surgery. Simple makeup was enough to turn Lu Yin into Lu Shihua. However, this idea was quickly rejected by Gon. Trying to trick people with makeup was too insincere. Zhou Yu only needed one look at the dress and the Opie to understand everything. Next, Xian suggested Lu Yin to undergo a sex change operation. With the help of advanced technology, it would only take a day for Lu Yin to fully recover. By then, Lu Yin would completely transform into Lu Shihua. There wouldn't be any flaws in his disguise. However, this idea was still rejected by Gon. Sex change could indeed change one's appearance, but it couldn't change one's DNA. As long as Zhou Yu was careful, he would still be able to discover Lu Yin's true identity. The meticulous Zhou Yu didn't forget to do a DNA test on Lu Shihua. He only relaxed after getting the accurate DNA result. He believed that the person in front of him was Lu Shihua. In order to cover up this last flaw, Gohan finally came up with an idea as big as a black hole: change Lu Yin and Lu Shihua's heads. Because the current DNA testing equipment only extracted tissue from a person's body, there was no DNA testing equipment that would extract DNA from a person's head. This gave Gohan the opportunity to show off. If the lower half of the body was Lu Shihua's but the head was Lu Yin's, then even the DNA testing equipment wouldn't be able to discover that Lu Shihua had changed his head. This genius idea shocked Xian. After asking the doctor carefully, Xian and Gohan confirmed that the current medical technology could indeed temporarily help two people change their heads. At the same time, the skin, spine and nervous system would perfectly fuse together. At least on the surface, no one would be able to tell that the two had changed their heads. Since only part of the human body was fusing together, the operation was very fast. It would take at most 2 hours to complete the head change. In fact, this operation could even be done directly in the med bay. Reconnecting the head and the body was easy, but the real problem was the rejection reaction between the two bodies. This was a problem that even modern black technology could not solve. Although it could be temporarily suppressed with drugs, the huge rejection reaction could still completely destroy the reconnected head and body in a short period of time. Ordinary people would not be able to hold on for more than 10 minutes before dying from the intense rejection reaction. Fortunately, Lu Shihua and Lu Yin were siblings, so they shared some of their DNA. Therefore, the reaction was not as intense as that of a normal person. Under the suppression of the drug, they could maintain a safe period of about an hour. During this 1-hour period, no one would be able to tell that there was anything wrong with their appearance. Of course, after switching bodies, Lu Yin couldn't control his sister's body properly. He couldn't even walk and move normally. Lu Shihua played the role of a captured prisoner. Throughout the entire process, there were powerful swordsmen holding Lu Shihua down, then inflicting some external injuries on Lu Shihua's body. This way, no matter how abnormal Lu Shihua's body was, Zhou Yu would only think that Lu Shihua's body was seriously injured. How could he possibly think that Lu Shihua's head had actually been changed? Now that things had progressed to this point, the next mission was Xian and the Great Sun Sword Immortals. After Lu Shihua appeared, Xian and the Great Sun Sword Immortal had to trick Zhou Yu into Lu Shihua's body within an hour. Otherwise, if the rejection became too strong, they would have to cut off their necks and switch bodies. Otherwise, Lu Shihua and Lu Yin's lives would be in danger. Fortunately, Xian and the Great Sun Sword Immortal were able to accomplish their mission. Zhou Yu might be well versed in modern technology, but he still had the mindset of an ancient person. He didn't expect Lu Shihua to be able to change his head. In the end, he fell into Gohan and Xian's trap and died. Looking at the whole process, although Gohan and Xian came up with the plan together, the real heroes were Lu Shihua and Lu Yin. When normal people heard that Gohan wanted them to switch bodies, their first reaction would be to think that Gohan was crazy. They would never agree to such a ridiculous request. Just like Gohan yesterday, He would rather start a massacre in Yanjing than give up his life. But when Gohan told Lu Shihua his plan, Lu Shihua agreed without hesitation. At the same time, she helped her brother convince him to switch bodies. Only then did the plan go smoothly. Otherwise, if Lu Shihua wasn't willing and delayed for a day or two, Zhou Yu would definitely be suspicious. At that time, the plan wouldn't go so smoothly. So Gohan and the Great Sun Sword Immortal had already discussed it. When Lu Shihua and Lu Yin woke up, they would give all the credit to Lu Shihua. Gohan wouldn't take any credit himself. Or rather, they would use the lives of the 1699 people to make up for it. Gohan. I mean if your plan fails, if Zhou Yu discovers the truth that Lu Shihua isn't the real Lu Shihua, what will you do? When everyone was in a state of follow-up work, Liu Ling suddenly pulled Gohan to a secluded corner and whispered to Gohan, "If Zhou Yu finds out the truth, I'll immediately jump out of the void and destroy the core of the creature's brain. That should be able to temporarily remove Zhou Yu's absolute control over the creature's brain, and the part of the soul that is being controlled will be able to escape. What about the remaining part? Then treat it as if they gave up their lives for the great cause of humanity. Just like how you killed the 1699 people without hesitation. You can think of it that way. Then, if the power of laws in Lu Yin's brain can't kill Zhou Yu, and Zhou Yu really takes over his brain, what will you do then?" Liu Ling wasn't willing to let Gohan go so easily. She then hypothesized an even more terrifying possibility. "I will immediately crush Lu Yin's brain, kill Zhou Yu, and return the body to Lu Shihua." Gohan answered. "Then doesn't that mean Lu Yin will die with him?" Liu Ling's expression was one of shock. "Yes. He died for humanity, a worthy death," Gohan said calmly. Hearing Gohan's answer, Liu Ling felt a chill run down her spine. "But, if you aren't willing to die for humanity, what right do you have to ask Lu Yin to give up his life for humanity? Being weak is a sin." Gohan sighed. "Because I am strong enough, I have the ability to reject the violence that tries to inflict on me. If Lu Yin is strong enough, he also has the right to reject all of this. Otherwise, he will only be at the mercy of the strong." Liu Ling was silent for a while. "What if it's me? If one day I face the same situation as Lu Yin, will you kill me without hesitation?" "I won't." Gohan didn't hesitate and pulled Liu Ling into his arms. "Even if the sun and the moon are reversed, the ocean is reversed, and time is reversed, I will definitely save you. You will always be by my side. This is also the right of the strong." While Gohan was waiting for Lu Shihua to wake up from the medical pod, the recovery of the human souls was also progressing in an orderly manner. Without Zhou Yu's control, the biological brain entered a state of freedom. The staff of the research institute all went online and began to guide the remaining souls trapped in the biological brain offline. The entire process was carried out in an orderly manner. In a short period of time, a large number of souls returned to their original bodies and reunited with their loved ones. The first major crisis in human history caused by a game seemed to have come to an end. But in the end, something unexpected happened. The staff responsible for guiding the souls in the online game reported to the Great Sun Sword Immortal that a portion of the souls were trapped in a certain instance and could not be guided out of the game. As for the staff who tried to enter the instance, they completely lost contact with them after entering the instance. They were also trapped in the game and became new victims. When the final count was done, there were about 4 million souls trapped in the instance. No matter how hard the staff in the control room tried, they could not release these souls. This discovery caused the entire control room to become extremely nervous. All the staff members were desperately trying to figure out what was going on inside. However, the biological computer dungeon was like a sturdy city. No matter how hard the staff attacked, they could not even open a crack in the city. They had no idea what was going on in the dungeon, let alone a way to save the trapped people. Just when everyone was at their wits' end, Guhan, who was watching from the side, suddenly asked, "Where's Tomono Kid? Did Tomono Kakashi not appear?" "No," Shien replied bitterly. In reality, he had been paying attention to Tomono Kakashi's situation. After all, Tomono Kakashi was a soul he raised. Like a daughter, Shien cared about Tomono Kakashi the most. But just like the souls trapped in the fortress, Tomono Kakashi had also completely lost contact with them. If the worst-case scenario was considered, then Tomono Kakashi might have been killed by Zhou Yu's soul. Tomono Kakashi was already dead. There's no other way. If it really doesn't work, we can only break this instance with hardware. Shien sighed. This was the last solution everyone could think of. No matter how powerful a software was, it still needed hardware to support it. Even a terrifying instance was built on the foundation of a living creature's brain. Right now, humans had already located the area in the living creature's brain. As long as they completely removed that area of the living creature's brain and cut off the connection with the living creature's brain, they could destroy the entire instance with hardware. This was a relatively labor-saving method. As for whether the trapped souls could successfully escape after destroying the living creature's brain, this was something even Shien could not give an answer to. After all, the souls were trapped in a small piece of the living creature's brain. Only God knew if they could return to their own bodies alive. Chapter 1295. Dean. There's a huge discovery. Just when the situation had become hopeless, a staff member in charge of monitoring the entire game suddenly said excitedly. But his excitement only lasted for a few seconds, and there was a faint sound of sobbing. "What's wrong? Why are you crying?" Shien asked calmly when he saw the staff member crying. "It's Su Yang. Su Yang used his life to send this news." Sob, sob, sob. The staff member could no longer suppress the pain in his heart, and started crying loudly. Su Yang? Wasn't he trapped in that dungeon and unable to come out? How did he die? Great Sun Sword Immortal said in disbelief. But as a document was passed to him, Great Sun Sword Immortal let out a long sigh, revealing a sorrowful expression. The document was finally passed to Gohan. Gohan took a look and finally understood what was going on. It turned out that Su Yang was a researcher at the research center. He had re-entered the game immediately after Zhou Yu's death and started guiding the souls trapped in the game away. He was also the first to discover the dungeon fortress that trapped millions of souls. In the end, in order to unravel the mystery of the dungeon, Su Yang charged into the dungeon without hesitation. He cut off all contact with the outside world and was unable to leave the dungeon again. It had been almost 10 hours since then. Just as everyone thought Su Yang's soul was trapped in the dungeon, the surveillance showed that a soul fragment rushed out of the dungeon fortress, and then quickly returned to Su Yang's body. Everyone hurriedly came to Su Yang's side, and found that he was still in a vegetative state. But his fingers were constantly tapping in a rhythm. The researchers quickly realized that Su Yang's tapping rhythm should be Morse code. He wanted to use this method to send a message. So the researchers quickly began to decipher this Morse code, and finally came up with these words. Emperor Sword Dungeon. Miss is alive. Poseidon. It was a pity that Su Yang had only managed to send a few words. After those words were sent, Su Yang passed away. He had completely stopped breathing and sacrificed himself at his post. Even the most advanced medical technology could not save him. According to the analysis afterward, Su Yang had used some kind of method to forcibly leave the dungeon, but this also caused Su Yang's soul to suffer fatal damage. Relying on his obsession to forcibly return to his body, he reported the information he had to the Research Institute through Morse code. Unfortunately, what Su Yang brought back was only his obsession and a little bit of his soul fragment. This little bit of soul fragment could not last for too long, so Su Yang only left behind a few words before he was forever sacrificed. Look, This was the difference between people. What a good boy! He sacrificed his life for the future of mankind. Fleeting Time Lin, who was sitting beside Gu Han, could not help but sigh after reading Su Yang's story. However, no matter how you looked at it, it sounded like she was talking to Gohan, who was beside her. He really is a good boy. Gohan nodded. He has made a great contribution to humanity. I will suggest that all 8 base cities build a statue of him in the city center at the same time. At the same time, we will design a special dungeon for him in the game to honor this hero who sacrificed himself for humanity. This is really a generous treatment. Liu Ling deliberately dragged out the word generous. The sarcasm in her words was obvious. For a normal person, this is indeed a generous treatment. There is nothing to be sarcastic about. Gohan smiled. At this point, Gohan's personal terminal suddenly rang. It was a call from Song Hama's parents. In the call, Song Hama's parents told Gohan that everyone else who was trapped in the game had come back alive. Only Song Hama and his swordwomen were still trapped in the game. In the call, Song Hama's parents begged Gohan in a hoarse voice, hoping that he could use Gohan's privileges to save Song Hama. These 2 grief-stricken old people did not know that even the most privileged human in the world could not save Song Hama. Song Hama was Gohan's childhood friend. Song Hama's parents also bore part of the responsibility of raising Gohan. If it were not for Song Hama's parents' help, Gohan would have become a homeless child in the slums. He would not have achieved what he had today. Tens of millions of people knelt before Gohan and begged Gohan to save their loved ones. Gohan could turn a blind eye. However, when these 2 old men begged for Gohan's help, Gohan had no choice but to agree. Moreover, Gohan could not ignore Song Hama's life. Sigh. Gohan sighed. He stood up and walked to Great Sun Sword Immortal and Chu Xian. He held the information in his hands and asked, "What do you 2 think about this information?" Chu Xian and Great Sun Sword Immortal were stunned. They looked at Gohan, their mouths twitching, but they did not say anything in the end. "If you are not willing to say it, I will say it." Gohan smiled and said, "This Emperor's Sword Instance Dungeon is probably the instance dungeon that trapped the remaining souls. And in the entire game, there is probably only one Emperor's Sword Instance Dungeon that is waiting to be activated. Coincidentally, this instance dungeon is activated by my account, Military Governor. Now, this instance dungeon's guiding mission is still with me." Miss is probably talking about Tomono Kakashi. This means that Tomono Kakashi did not die, but is also trapped in this instance dungeon. Finally, he mentioned Poseidon, which is me. This matches the first condition. This means that I need to solve the mystery of this instance dungeon. Finally, looking at it from a comprehensive point of view. If I want to save the millions of souls trapped in this instance dungeon, I'll have to make a trip to the game myself and complete this Emperor's Sword instance dungeon. Only then will there be a chance of survival for these souls and Masakazu Tamina. This is a very simple guess. It is impossible for the 2 of you not to guess the meaning of this sentence. Why did the 2 of you not take the initiative to find me? Gohan said all the hidden information in one breath. Can't you guess why we are not speaking? Great Sun Sword Immortal rolled his eyes at Gohan. This instance dungeon is filled with danger. Once you enter, you may not be able to come out. Since you can disregard the lives of tens of millions of people, why would you care about the remaining millions? Moreover, these millions of people are indeed not as important as a future Emperor Sword wielder. When the time comes, we only need to say that these millions of people's lives were sacrificed to save tens of millions of lives. I believe the people will not blame us. This matter can be resolved perfectly. Your Majesty, there is no need for you to enter the game and risk your life. Just let it all go. Great Sun Sword Immortal said directly. That's right. Great Sun Sword Immortal, you are right. If these millions of people really have nothing to do with me, then they die. It's no big deal. Gohan said calmly. It's a pity that the souls here are not completely unrelated to me. In reality, there are very important friends of mine. Your Majesty's friends are also trapped in the Instant's dungeon. Great Sun Sword Immortal was shocked. Tamono Kakashi. Gohan smiled bitterly, then said with determination, I promised Tamono Kakashi in the game that I would protect her safety for the rest of my life and be her best friend. If I can't even save a friend's life, then I, Gohan, am not fit to be Poseidon. Gohan. Hearing Gohan's words, not only was Great Sun Sword Immortal deeply moved, even the cold-faced Chu Xian at the side was moved. Although his expression was not very emotional, he patted Gohan's shoulder hard and said calmly, Gu Xuanwu left something with me. I originally did not want to give it to you, but if you can save Tamono Kakashi, then I will give it to you. There's such a thing? Gohan was shocked. Luckily he used Tamono Kakashi as an excuse and not Song Hama. Otherwise, Xian would not have told him such an important thing. Xian was Kenzu's strategist. He fought side by side with Kenzu 1,000 years ago. There was no way he wouldn't know Gu Xuanwu, who was related to Kenzu. So it was natural that Gu Xuanwu would pass something to him through Xian. On the other hand, this Xian, since Gu Xuanwu wanted him to bring the item to him, he hid it from him. If it wasn't for him using the fragrant wind intellect to move him, he would have kept Gu Xuanwu's item from him forever. Even if he died, he wouldn't know of its existence. It could be imagined that since this thing was something that Gu Xuanwu specially asked Xian to give to him, it must be very important to him. It might be an important tool to unravel many mysteries of the past and future. If he lost this thing, Gohan would not have a place to cry even if he cried. Thinking of this, Gohan's gaze toward Xian became a little special and a little sharp. I know what you're thinking. Xian stared at Gohan. Don't hate me. If this thing is beneficial to you, I will naturally give it to you. But I'm afraid that this thing will not only not benefit you, but will also make you lose yourself in the future. Originally, I definitely wouldn't have mentioned this matter to you, especially after seeing you slaughter ordinary people. However, since you're willing to take the risk for Masakei's Tamono today, I've changed my opinion of you. I'll hand this thing over to you. Perhaps it will have a positive effect. Master. Just as Xian and Gohan were talking, Lu Shihua's weak voice came from behind Gohan. Chapter 1296. Shihua. Your body is weak. You need to rest. Gohan hurriedly pressed Lu Shihua, who had just crawled out of the medical pod, back onto the chair. Master, I'm fine. The one who's not fine is my little brother. My little brother's soul hasn't returned. Lu Shihua said anxiously to Gohan. Gohan was stunned. Are you sure your little brother's soul isn't in his body? Of course. I'm his biological sister. I can feel it. My little brother's body is only a shell. His soul isn't here. Lu Shihua said anxiously. It seems like there's still a flaw in my plan. Gohan smiled helplessly. It seems like Lu Yin's soul had already left his body when Zhou Yu was possessing him. What? Will my little brother's life be in danger? Lu Shihua became even more anxious after hearing Gohan's words. That won't happen. I can guarantee that your little brother's soul is still alive. Otherwise, your little brother's body would immediately lose all signs of life and become a dead man. There's no physical body in this world that can survive the destruction of a soul. Your little brother's soul must still be somewhere. It's most likely in the game, but after clearing the dungeon 3 times, all the souls have left the game. If your little brother's soul is still there, he should have returned. Could it be that your little brother's soul? Gohan said in a low voice. It seemed like Zhou Yu had thrown Lu Yin's soul into the game when he took over Lu Yin's body, and Lu Yin's soul somehow entered the dungeon. That was why the staff in the game couldn't find Lu Yin's soul from the beginning to the end. Master, my little brother died for. Lu Shihua looked at Gohan with tears in his eyes. The meaning behind his words was self-evident. Lu Yin had taken a huge risk and sacrificed himself to defeat Zhou Yu. Guhan had to take responsibility for Lu Yin's life. Now there was another reason for Guhan to enter the dungeon. Guhan had no choice but to enter. Yuzhang City is empty. This is the first time I've seen this, Guhan said as he looked at his surroundings after entering the game. It had been half a year since Guhan last logged into the game. No matter which time he entered the game, Yuzhang City was always bustling with activity. There was an endless stream of people walking through every corner of Yuzhang City. The city in the game was never quiet. When he entered the game, the entire Yuzhang City seemed to have become a ghost town. There was not a single person in sight on the huge street. What was strange was that all the shops on both sides of the street were open for business. All the equipment, lights, kitchens, and other facilities in each shop were operating normally. However, there was not a single person in these shops. In order to facilitate the search for lost souls in the game, after regaining control of the game officials made all the NPCs and Yuan Co in the game offline. However, the equipment in these shops did not have time to be turned off. Hence, this extremely strange scene appeared. Master! Lu Shihua stuck close to Guhan's back in fear. This strange scene made Lu Shihua instinctively afraid. Ahem! Both of you, pay attention to your image. Liuyan Ling appeared beside Guhan. The three of them formed the main force of Guhan's dungeon challenge this time. According to Guhan's plan, he could enter the game by himself. There was no need for Lu Shihua and Fleeting Ling to enter the game. However, Lu Shihua firmly said that she had to save her brother with her own hand. Liuyan Ling said that she could not let Guhan be the only one in the limelight. She wanted to be in the limelight as well. In this regard, Guhan did not insist after a few simple words of advice. This was the path they had chosen. Guhan would not stop them. According to the information found by Su Yang and the staff, the entrance to the dungeon is near the Hengdian studio in Jinhua, Zhujiang. Guhan said to Lu Shihua and Liuyan Ling, Master, why is the entrance to the dungeon there? Lu Shihua asked curiously. You don't even know this. Liuyan Ling said before Guhan could answer. In the real world, Hengdian Studio is the biggest stronghold of the Heavenly Court in the human world. The only entrance to the Heavenly Court is located in Hengdian Studio. If we want to enter the Annihilate the Heavenly Court dungeon, we have to go through that entrance. In Su Yang's information, he entered the dungeon through that entrance. Liuyan Ling said quickly. Alright. We will explain these things later. We need to go to Hengdian Studio immediately. Guhan clapped his hands rhythmically. Then, Xian's voice resounded throughout the city. Are you ready? Senior Xian, we are ready. Please teleport us directly to Hengdian Studio. Guhan replied. I wish you all the best. Xian's voice disappeared. Guhan and the others felt their vision go black. When they saw light again, they were already in a luxurious, classical Chinese-style building. Originally, it would take Guhan and the others at least half a day to get to Hengdian Studio from Yuzhang City by public transport. However, this was a half-closed game with no players. Xian had the highest control of the game, so teleporting across the entire map was a piece of cake. With a thought from Xian, Guhan and the others teleported to the entrance of the dungeon. I've long heard that Hengdian Studio is the most well-preserved and beautifully built place in the entire Yanhuang continent. I've long wanted to visit this place in the real world. I didn't expect to be one step ahead of me in the game, Guhan said with a sigh. Hengdian Studio was Heavenly Court's largest stronghold. A large number of Heavenly Court's Yuan Co lived there. Different from other Yuan Co's forces which were a mix of humans and beasts, Heavenly Court's Yuan Co were intelligent beasts. They needed a good living environment. Not only would they not destroy the surrounding buildings, but they would also repair them from time to time. The Heavenly Court had been in the Hengdian Film City for more than 900 years. The entire illusion was naturally created by the heavenly court. There were pavilions everywhere, carved dragons and painted rafters. Under the lingering immortal chi, it was like a real heavenly court. Under normal circumstances, Hengdian Film City would spawn countless powerful prime bandit. Even Emperor Sword-level players in the game would not be able to move freely in Hengdian Film City, much less approach the entrance of the dimensional rift that led to the heavenly court that was protected by Hengdian Film City. However, all of the Yuan Ko had been spawned by the game. Hengdian Studio was also empty. Gohan and the others could enjoy the beautiful scenery of Hengdian Studio while strolling quietly in this important stronghold of Yuan Ko. Finally, they arrived at the center of Hengdian Studio, Qin Imperial Palace. From the incomplete historical records of the Great Calamity era, one could vaguely learn that this Hengdian Film City was originally a small mountain village. Later on, for the sake of filming the movie Jing Ku Assassinates the Qin Emperor, a film crew had built a large-scale ancient building in this small mountain village, the Qin Imperial Palace. With Qin Imperial Palace as the core, Hengdian Film City gradually developed into a large-scale film and television base with more than a dozen special buildings. It was provided to all the production teams in the country for free. Hengdian Film City also relied on the stars of these production teams to attract a large number of tourists, earning a lot of money. It was a win-win situation for both sides. P.S. The first scenic area of Hengdian Studio was Guangzhou Street, built for the filming of Opium War. Qin Imperial Palace was built in the second year. The dimensional gap that led to Heavenly Court was in Qin Imperial Palace. However, the entrance was not in the most important palace of Qin Imperial Palace, the unification of the Four Seas Hall. It was in an inconspicuous horse field beside the unification of the Four Seas Hall. This horse field was originally used to perform the Qin Imperial Palace's classic equestrian performance, the martial arts exhibition of the Eight Banners. Don't ask why the Qin Imperial Palace would perform something from the Qing dynasty. You'd have to ask the managers of Hengdian Studio. In any case, before the Great Destruction, there would be equestrian stuntmen performing the martial arts exhibition of the Eight Banners 3 times. However, as time passed, this horse field was no longer a martial arts field. Instead, it became a public square. In the middle of the public square, there was a new altar. On top of the altar was the door that led to Heavenly Court. Without any obstructions, Gohan and the others arrived in front of the door. Looking at the shining door, Gohan looked at Lu Shihua and Liunian Ling beside him. You two have to think this through. Once you follow me into this door, you will have no chance of escaping before we clear this instance dungeon. In fact, you might end up like the millions of souls, trapped in this instance dungeon forever, Gohan said solemnly. Gohan, since when did you become so wishy-washy? Liunian Ling rolled her eyes at Gohan and led the way into the door. She sure is impatient. Gohan smiled wryly. Without saying anything else, he grabbed Lu Shihua's hand and disappeared into the door. System notification. Player Military Governor, welcome to the Exterminate Heavenly Court Instance Dungeon. The first quest for the Exterminate Heavenly Court is to steal the Peach Tree of Immortality. System notification. Quest 1 has been updated. Steal the trunk of a 5,000-year-old peach tree from the Queen Mother of the West's Peach Garden in the Heavenly Court. After completing the quest, you may enter the King Arthur's Betrayal Instance Dungeon. Find Lu Ban to receive the quest reward and accept the next part of the quest. This is Yuzhong City. When Gohan and Liunian Ling saw the world around them, they were shocked to find that they had returned to Yuzhong City. Not to mention, it was a bustling city filled with players. Chapter 1297. These are not NPCs. They are all real players. Liunian Ling looked around at the players in Yuzhong City and frowned. Their expressions are very normal. There is nothing unusual about them. They don't look like souls trapped in a dungeon. How could this be? There's no need to guess blindly. We'll know once we ask. Guhan brought Lu Shihua and Liuyan Ling to a tea house and found many players drinking tea in the tea house. Guhan picked a player who was dressed shabbily and served the worst tea. The player had the name Ouyang Jiushi above his head. He threw a 10,000 yuan bill on the table and said, "Brother, I want to ask you a few things." "No problem. No problem." The player immediately put the 10,000 yuan into his wallet carefully. He then smiled at Guhan and said, "I don't know what you want to ask, sir. As long as it's something I know, I will tell you everything I know." "You don't know me?" At that moment, the name Military Governor above Guhan's head was particularly eye-catching. Moreover, this Ouyang Jiushi had met the military governor a few times. It was unexpected that this player did not know Guhan at all. "You must be a famous big shot. How could a lowly junior like me know you, sir?" Ouyang Jiushi said with a charming smile. Guhan responded with an "Oh." It seemed that the player could not see the two big words, military governor, above his head. This was very strange. Why could he see it but these players could not? "The weather is so good today. Aren't you going to fight a dungeon?" Guhan squinted his eyes and asked. "Dungeon? What dungeon?" Ouyang Jiushi's face showed an inexplicable expression. "What is a dungeon? Is it something in an online game?" "I'm sorry, sir. I don't play online games." "Haven't you played Sword Maiden Online?" "Sword Maiden Online? I've never heard of it before. Is it a new game?" "I'm sorry, I really don't know much about games. Moreover, look at me. I don't have the money to play games," Ouyang Jiushi said with a bitter smile. "What year is it now?" Guhan's eyebrows furrowed even more. "That's easy. Of course it's January 12th, 3012. But why are you asking this, sir? Can't you just look at your personal terminal?" Ouyang Jiushi's expression became even more puzzled. "What about Sword Maiden? Do you know about Sword Maiden?" "Sword Maiden? Is it the mobile game that kids play, firing cannons and shouting, 'I'm the commander'?" Ouyang Ji pursed his lip. "Oh right, you can't be talking about Sword Immortals, right? I know everything about Sword Immortals." Guhan was speechless. After some communication, Guhan finally had some understanding of this dungeon world. This was a world that was completely different from the normal world and the game world. The memories of the players here seemed to have been tampered with. The players in this world had forgotten about Sword Maidens and Sword Bearers. They didn't know about Sword Maiden Online. Even Yuan Ko didn't know about it. This was a completely Xianxiao world. According to Ouyang Jiushi, this dungeon world was divided into two worlds, the human world and the immortal world. The human world had its own government, but the human world's government was controlled by the immortal world's heavenly court. All the senior officials, including the president, were under the command of the heavenly court. The human world had no control. There were immortals in the immortal world, and they often came to the lower realm to play. If they were in a good mood, they would take in one or two mortals as their disciples or take some beauties as their immortal slave. But if the immortals were in a bad mood, they would wantonly kill in the mortal world. Of course, the immortal world strictly forbade this kind of killing. Hence, there were sword maidens patrolling the human world. If they found any immortals who dared to kill, they would immediately capture them. Besides the immortals, there were also the demon clan in this world that wantonly killed humans. These sword maidens also had the responsibility of protecting humans from the demon clan. All in all, the heavenly court in this world had become a good person who was responsible for the safety of the entire world. It was no longer Yuan Ko, who was hated by humans in the real world. "What do we do now?" Liuyan Ling asked Guhan after coming out of the tea house and receiving the information. "What else can we do? Of course, we'll follow the quest instructions and complete the first requirement of this Emperor Sword quest," Guhan said calmly. "But this world has become like this. How would we know where the peach garden is? And will the King Arthur's Betrayal Instance Dungeon still be at the original Xianyang City Airport? Liu Ling asked worriedly. Of course it's there, Gohan said with absolute certainty. How can you be so sure? Liu Ling did not understand. Don't tell me you've forgotten that we obtained an Emperor's Sword level dungeon strategy from Enyang Gate, Gu Han said calmly. I remember now. Liu Ling looked as if she had suddenly realized something. However, she immediately became terrified. Could it be that the strategy for this Emperor's Sword instance dungeon was recorded in the small booklet that was left over 1,000 years ago? That's right. Gohan nodded. In fact, the small booklet briefly mentioned the background story of the instance dungeon. The background of this instance dungeon is a world that is completely controlled by the Heavenly Court. The final goal of the instance dungeon is to kill the Jade Emperor in the Heavenly Court and release all humans. This is the quest to reveal the truth of the entire world. Compare it carefully. Isn't the world described in the small booklet the world in this instance dungeon? Gohan said faintly. But isn't that the small booklet that was left there at the beginning of the apocalypse? It's been over 1,000 years. How did the owner of the small booklet know about the strategy for this instance dungeon? Moreover, Gu Xuanwu, Elder Gu Xuanwu, doesn't even know about the situation of this instance dungeon. This small booklet couldn't have been left there by Elder Gu Xuanwu. The more Liu Ling thought about it, the more terrified she became. Who could have left this small booklet there? Maybe it was written by you. Gohan looked at Liu Ling meaningfully. If we can successfully pass through this instance dungeon, you will definitely understand this instance dungeon very well. It's only natural that you would write this small booklet in the future. Even if I wrote this small booklet in the future, how did I send it to 1,000 years ago? As Liu Ling said this, she suddenly paused. You mean, at some point in the future, I will also travel to the era of 1,000 years ago? It might not be you. Gohan nodded and then shook his head. Anyone who has experienced this instance dungeon, such as me, Lu Shihua, and the tens of thousands of player souls in this instance dungeon. However, all of these players have lost their minds and memories. Even if they are rescued in the future, they won't be able to clearly understand the strategy one used to complete the quest. I'm afraid the only ones who can participate in the entire quest dungeon are the three of us. So, among the three of us, one or two or even all three of us might travel to the past. The one with the highest possibility is me. Gohan said. Why? Why do you think you have the highest possibility? Liu Ling asked, puzzled. Because I have some unfinished ties in the past. Gohan let out a long sigh. He thought of I Ching. He would most likely have to travel to the past to complete this unfinished relationship with I Ching. Hearing Gohan's words, Liu Ling suddenly became interested and asked curiously, What kind of ties? I can't tell you. Gohan shook his head and answered firmly. Sigh. Didn't you say you like me? Is there anything that we can't talk about? Fleeting Time Lin was displeased by Yi Si's words. Okay. If you agree to marry me now, I'll tell you everything. Gu Han's reaction was swift, and she immediately countered Fleeting Time's words. Of course, Liu Ling would not agree to marry Gohan. The two of them instantly fell into silence, leaving Lu Shihua awkwardly walking behind the two of them. Lu Shihua felt like he was unnecessary. You can't go out. When Gohan and the other two arrived at the gate of Yuzhang City and were about to leave the city, they were stopped by a few guards at the gate. Because these guards carried all kinds of sword maidens on their backs, Gohan was sure that these guards were actually sword bearers. However, these sword bearers were different from normal sword bearers. They did not put their sword maidens in their scabbards, but instead carried them on their backs. At the same time, all the sword maidens were in the form of sword maidens. None of the sword bearers were released. Why don't you let us go out? Seeing that she was stopped, Liu Ling asked angrily. Why? Don't you know how dangerous it is outside? There are magical beasts running amok everywhere. Ordinary humans like you are not even enough to feed the magical beast. Just stay in the city obediently. There will be delicious food and drink. Why do you have to go out and die?" The guard at the gate said disdainfully. What happened? Who is making a ruckus here?" At this time, Gohan suddenly heard a very familiar voice. Then, a slightly wretched-looking man walked to Gohan's side. "Greetings, Captain." Seeing this man appear, the guards at the gate immediately said respectfully, "There are 3 ungrateful people who want to leave the city, but we stopped them. Is that so?" The captain looked at Gohan disdainfully. "You want to leave the city with such cowardly looks? Hurry up and go home to drink some milk." "Ah." After saying that, the captain began to laugh wildly. "I say, Toad, you are getting bolder and bolder. You actually dare to mock me." Gohan sneered, then punched the captain's nose. "You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.